At this moment, deep within the mysterious palace of the ancient southern capital, the black silhouette of the ancient southern capital's consciousness stared at Qin Chen and the others as they entered their respective light paths, a hint of excitement flashing in its eyes. How many years has it been? How many years have I waited? Finally, there are geniuses who can achieve the goal and activate the spiritual seeds of my race. Now, it depends on their talent. If they can comprehend the cultivation methods of my race, then the arrangements made by the adults back then will finally bear fruit. Even if they cannot comprehend the cultivation methods of my race, as long as they can activate the spiritual seeds, it will be a great success, and my perseverance will have meaning. The black silhouette was extremely excited. So many years of perseverance have finally yielded results, how could it not be excited? And it was most concerned about Qin Chen. This child is only 16 years old, and the true power in his body is so terrifying. Even among the human geniuses in ancient times, he can be called powerful. If he can successfully cultivate my race's cultivation methods and activate the golden spiritual seed, then in the future. The black silhouette's breathing became rapid. Obviously, all of this was extremely important to it. At the end of the light path, Qin Chen instantly appeared in an empty stone chamber. Is this the place of inheritance? Where are the so-called inheritances and secret techniques? Qin Chen looked around the stone chamber, and suddenly, his pupils shrank. On the stone chamber, patterns slowly emerged. These patterns combined to form an extremely complex pattern. This pattern was very strange, giving people an extremely mysterious feeling at first glance. What exactly is this pattern? Qin Chen frowned, carefully comprehending and studying it. These patterns are somewhat similar to array patterns, but different from array patterns. They are also somewhat similar to runes, but there are also some differences in the rules of runes. It is more like a strange restriction, but the structure of this restriction is very mysterious, different from normal restrictions. It's not an array, nor a rune, and it doesn't look like a restriction either. What exactly is it? Could it be some kind of secret pattern? Qin Chen knew that in this world, some powerful cultivation methods and secret books existed in the form of such secret patterns. However, even Qin Chen had seen few secret patterns of that level, so he didn't have enough references. It should be some kind of secret pattern. Secret patterns are very rare and extremely difficult to depict. I only had a slight understanding of them in my previous life, but now I can carefully comprehend them. Immediately, Qin Chen calmed down and began to analyze the secret patterns on the wall. One after another, strange patterns immediately appeared in Qin Chen's mind. He did not directly analyze the entire secret pattern, but started from a small pattern, gradually comprehending, analyzing, and understanding it. Array patterns, runes, restrictions, secret patterns, etc., although they are different fields with their own rules, they also have commonalities. This is also why Qin Chen was not only a master of formations in his previous life, but also a master of runes and a master of restrictions. The so-called understanding of one method leads to the understanding of all methods. Using his attainments in array patterns, runes, and restrictions, Qin Chen quickly integrated into the analysis of this array pattern. Time passed bit by bit, and it was unknown how long it had been. Buzz. The secret pattern in front of him instantly imprinted into Qin Chen's eyes, and he completely mastered it. What a magical secret pattern, very similar to restrictions, but essentially different. The secret pattern in front of him seemed very complex, but it was actually very simple, and seemed to be the entry-level technique of secret patterns. This allowed Qin Chen to thoroughly understand it in such a short period of time. Although it was only the entry level, it was equivalent to opening a door for Qin Chen, leading him into a new world. Rumble. But after all the secret patterns were thoroughly understood, a path suddenly appeared again in the stone chamber in front of him, leading to the distance. Another path has appeared. There is no inheritance reward. Is it necessary to continue forward? Qin Chen pondered in his heart, and immediately continued to move forward. After a while, he came to the next stone chamber. On this stone chamber, many secret patterns also appeared, which were obviously more than twice as complex as the previous secret patterns. Continue to comprehend the secret patterns. Could it be that the inheritance assessment of this starry sky game is to test the comprehension and understanding of secret patterns? Qin Chen was thoughtful, and immediately fell into comprehension again. After that, Qin Chen continued to comprehend the secret patterns and move forward. And the secret patterns that appeared in each subsequent stone chamber were obviously more complex than the previous stone chamber. When he reached the fifth stone chamber, Qin Chen's deduction had become very slow. Although he had extremely high talent and could achieve analogies, secret patterns were, after all, a completely new discipline. It was still extremely difficult for Qin Chen to comprehend too much at once. However, Qin Chen was completely immersed in it. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to the time when he was in the martial domain in his previous life, concentrating on research, unaware of worldly affairs, and climbing one peak after another. What a profound secret pattern study, but while the structure of these secret patterns is becoming more and more complex, why is it a bit strange? As he entered the later stone chambers, when Qin Chen saw the secret patterns on the walls, he felt a kind of cold and violent feeling seeping into his mind, making him very uncomfortable. Buzz. When the secret patterns of the fifth stone chamber were completely comprehended and understood by him. Boom. Qin Chen's spirit was instantly stripped away, and the whole person seemed to be in an endless universe and starry sky. In that starry sky, there was a pair of cold and bloodthirsty eyes staring at him. What terrible eyes these were! At that moment, endless evil, cold, and violent aura enveloped his mind, making his hair stand on end and his soul seemed to be stagnant. It seemed like only a moment had passed, and it seemed like countless centuries had passed. Qin Chen suddenly woke up and found that he was still standing in front of the stone chamber, his whole body soaked in cold sweat, and his heart was palpitating. What exactly is this? Qin Chen was shocked. How could he have such a feeling? Whose were the bloodthirsty eyes he saw in the endless secret patterns? Could it be the scene left over from ancient times? Qin Chen was puzzled. Secret patterns, like formations and restrictions, should not have attributes, but only a complex and mysterious structure. Why did I feel uncomfortable during the process of comprehension, and even see such terrible eyes? Could it be that the secret patterns I am observing are a complete secret pattern structure with its own attributes? Qin Chen thought of a possibility. Just like array patterns themselves do not have attributes, but people who enter the ice formation will definitely feel cold, and people who enter the flame formation will also feel hot. This does not mean that those array patterns have ice or flame attributes, but the effect produced by the formation formed by many array patterns. By the same token, observing secret patterns themselves will not have an uncomfortable feeling, let alone feel cold and violent, unless the secret patterns that Qin Chen is observing are a kind of very cold and violent secret patterns, which will give birth to such a feeling. However, why would the great power of the ancient southern capital set up such a strange secret pattern for them to comprehend and accept the inheritance? Qin Chen couldn't understand. Boom. Just as he was wondering, the stone chamber in front of him opened again, revealing a new passage. Never mind, let's continue to comprehend. This time, at the end of the passage, the new stone chamber contained a fragmented secret pattern diagram. It's actually incomplete. Qin Chen was stunned. However, he quickly understood and couldn't help but feel a little regretful in his heart. It seems that there are only 5 stone chambers for comprehension. This 6th stone chamber should be to test my comprehension ability from before. He stretched out a finger, poured in his true essence, and quickly completed the fragmented secret pattern diagram, forming a perfect secret pattern diagram. To Qin Chen, the secret patterns in the previous 5 stone chambers, although complex, had already been completely comprehended by him. Deriving new secret patterns might take a lot of time, but the fragmented secret pattern diagram on the wall had the same wonderful effect as the previous secret patterns, so he naturally completed it easily. Boom. The secret patterns on the stone chamber immediately bloomed with brilliant light, enveloping Qin Chen. Buzz. Qin Chen instantly disappeared from the stone chamber. Disappeared. He actually comprehended the first level of secret patterns so quickly. To have completely comprehended my clan's basic secret pattern catalog in just half a day is too fast. The will of the ancient southern capital observed the situation of the 12 contestants and was instantly stunned when it saw Qin Chen disappear after the first level. The other contestants, even the most talented Mo Li, has only just begun comprehending the fourth stone chamber. Others have even been stumped at the second or third level. How could Qin Chen comprehend the basic secret pattern catalog realms in the 5 stone chambers so quickly and perfectly apply them? Even the will of the ancient southern capital was shocked. The comprehension of secret pattern catalogs is extremely difficult. Although the first 5 levels are only basic level secret pattern catalogs, they are, after all, a new world, and it is by no means easy for ordinary people to comprehend them. Unless this kid has amazing attainments in this area, or has already mastered it before, otherwise it is absolutely impossible to be so fast. The will of the ancient southern capital immediately became excited. In any case, this person has mastered the initial secret pattern road, which means he has the opportunity to comprehend my clan's techniques. If that's really the case. Although it was only a will, the expression of this black figure instantly fluctuated. Full of excitement. Now it depends on how he comprehends the next level. With anticipation, the will of the ancient southern capital continued to observe. Buzz. Before his eyes flashed, Qin Chen arrived in a brand new space. Qin Chen looked at it and exclaimed, "A river." He saw that he was currently in a pure white void space. There was almost nothing in the entire space, except for a gray river flowing in front of him. This is. Qin Chen stood on the river, looking down in shock. With a slight sense of his mental power, he discovered that this river was actually a very strange power. This power was somewhat similar to true essence, but it was different from true essence, carrying a trace of chilling coldness, like a river of the underworld. What kind of power is this? Martial artists who cultivate different techniques naturally obtain different attributes of true essence. Some are as cold as ice, some are as hot as fire, some are as black as ink, and some are as bright as the scorching sun. For example, the true essence of the 9-star God Emperor art is vast and inclusive. The demonic technique cultivated by Mo Li of the Blood Demon sect is cold and dark. Different techniques release different auras. The river in front of him was gray, like a river of the underworld. Besides the coldness, the second feeling Qin Chen got was power. Power that was not inferior to the 9-star God Emperor art. This should be some kind of true essence, but what kind of true essence can compare to the 9-star God Emperor art? Qin Chen was shocked. The 9-star God Emperor art was the supreme technique he obtained from the Forbidden Land. In terms of purity, it far surpassed any other technique he had ever seen, surpassing some heaven-level techniques. However, the aura of this grey true essence was actually not inferior to the 9-star God Emperor art, which shocked Qin Chen. But soon, he regained his composure. The 9-star God Emperor art is rumored to have been passed down from the celestial realm, while this ancient southern capital ruins are powerful ruins from before the Dark Ages. It is not incomprehensible that the strong at that time could travel through the void and possess terrifying techniques similar to the 9-star God Emperor art. No matter what kind of true essence it is. Since it appeared here, then his purpose is likely to let himself absorb. Buzz. Immediately, with a thought, he began to control the true essence torrent below. What shocked Qin Chen was that these true essences could not be absorbed. These true essences are not for us to absorb. Then what are they for? Qin Chen frowned, and then discovered that after contacting these true essences, he could perfectly sense the structure in these true essences. Is it to let us sense the structure of this true essence and use it for simulation? Immediately, Qin Chen began to sit cross-legged and analyze these true essence structures. Sure enough, strangely, these true essences are extremely different from ordinary true essence structures. On the surface, they seem to be little different, but in reality, there is an essential difference. Fortunately, these true essences cannot be absorbed, otherwise, as long as he absorbs them into his body, they will definitely have a violent conflict with the true essence in his body. At that time, no one can know what consequences will occur, but the great possibility is that he will become possessed. The meaning of the ancient southern capital is to let us analyze the structure of this true essence river, and then transform our own true essence structure, so that there will not be much conflict between the two, and then absorb it. Qin Chen instantly understood the purpose and key of this round of inheritance. In the following period of time, Qin Chen completely immersed himself and began to fall into the comprehension of this true essence structure. As time passed, the structure of the true essence river gradually and clearly appeared in Qin Chen's mind. And Qin Chen's doubts became greater and greater. This true essence structure is too strange. How can there be such a strange true essence structure in the world, which is completely different from the true essence cultivated by normal techniques? Moreover, this ancient southern capital inheritance first allows us to comprehend secret patterns, and then analyzes the true essence structure. What is the connection between these two? Qin Chen would never believe that the ancient southern capital set up the assessment casually. There must be some purpose in it. In the blink of an eye, half a day passed. Qin Chen finally had a slight understanding of this true essence structure. Absorb. With a move of his mind, a grey true essence immediately poured into his body. What a cold feeling, but finally able to absorb it. Qin Chen was pleasantly surprised. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Strands of true essence instantly seeped into his body, and Qin Chen could clearly feel that his body strength was slowly improving. Too terrifying. What kind of true essence is this? Qin Chen was stunned. His body had already reached the third level of the undying saint body, making it extremely formidable. Yet, this true essence could still enhance his strength, completely exceeding his imagination. Continue absorbing. Qin Chen immediately continued absorbing the hazy true essence before him without hesitation, slowly guiding it to various parts of his body. A large amount of hazy, cold true essence began to transform his body. As this true essence within him increased, suddenly, crack. When this true essence entered the location of his Dantian bloodline, the lightning bloodline within Qin Chen's body suddenly activated automatically. Pilly snapla. Lightning surged, instantly clashing with this true essence. My lightning bloodline actually can't fuse with this true essence, Qin Chen wondered. The power of bloodlines and true essence are two completely different forces, and generally, they wouldn't be incompatible. But this situation now puzzled Qin Chen. No, it's not clashing, but transforming. Qin Chen was shocked to discover that the power of his lightning bloodline wasn't clashing with the hazy true essence, but gradually transforming it. As the lightning surged, the cold true essence that had just entered his body was immediately purified and became gentle after being baptized by the lightning. Qin Chen was overjoyed. Previously, although his strength had increased after absorbing this hazy true essence, he had always felt uncomfortable. But at this moment, that uncomfortable feeling completely disappeared. However, this also made Qin Chen wonder why the will of this ancient southern capital wanted him to sense and absorb such strange true essence. Or was it that the true essence cultivated by human experts in the ancient era was inherently different from the true essence cultivated by modern people? Next, Qin Chen continuously absorbed the power from the true essence river. Time passed. He didn't know how long had passed. Boom. Qin Chen's mid-stage Xuan realm peak cultivation instantly broke through, entering the late-stage Xuan realm. However, Qin Chen didn't stop cultivating. He continued until the true essence within his body reached the peak of the late-stage Xuan realm before stopping. After cultivating for such a long time, Qin Chen had a clearer understanding of the structure of this true essence. Profound. The more he understood, the more shocked Qin Chen was by the structure of this true essence. No wonder it could greatly enhance his cultivation. It had to be said that this true essence, whether in terms of purity or strength, far surpassed the true essence cultivated by ordinary cultivation methods. It even surpassed the true essence of heaven-grade cultivation methods, reaching an extremely astonishing level. Absorbing such true essence was comparable to lying among a large number of true stones to cultivate. How could Qin Chen let go of such an opportunity? However, after his cultivation broke through to the peak of the late-stage Xuan realm, Qin Chen finally stopped. Because he knew that whether it was cultivation or comprehension, he had to progress gradually. Breaking through too quickly would definitely cause instability in his foundation. On the other roads of the star constellation chess game, almost everyone had entered this level. Among these people, no one except Qin Chen could reach the sixth stone chamber of the mystic runes before entering the next level. After all, apart from Qin Chen, even geniuses like Mo Li, who were quite accomplished in mental strength, couldn't have Qin Chen's astonishing knowledge and be able to thoroughly comprehend the mystic runes. After entering the second level, feeling the hazy true essence in front of them, everyone was overjoyed and rushed forward to absorb it. Among them, Mo Li and Gui Ying adapted the fastest. Soon, the aura on both of them began to rise. But there were also people who couldn't comprehend the structure of this hazy true essence no matter what. Outside the star constellation chess game. Whoosh! Sichu Sheng was the first to be teleported out. Above the endless starry sky, the wall of the ancient southern capital slightly shook its head. This Sichu Sheng could only comprehend the mystic runes to the second stone chamber in the first level. I didn't expect that in this level, he wouldn't even be able to adapt to a trace of the true essence structure. It's impossible for him to cultivate my clan's techniques and fulfill the wishes of my clan's predecessors. The black figure was extremely concerned about this inheritance because it was very clear about the purpose of this inheritance, which was directly related to the plan set by their predecessors, and no mistakes could be tolerated. Buzz. Outside the ancient southern capital. After Sichu Sheng failed, he was directly teleported out of the ancient southern capital and appeared on the open space outside. Sichu Sheng, what exactly is this mysterious palace? What inheritance did you obtain inside? Where are the others? The many experts around had been waiting anxiously and rushed forward to ask. Sichu Sheng was at a loss for words because the will of the ancient southern capital had said not to casually reveal the matter of the mental seed. Moreover, he was very clear that the force he belonged to wasn't considered top-notch in the Great Wei dynasty, and it couldn't even be called heaven-defying in Xuanzhou. Once someone with ulterior motives knew that he possessed a heaven-defying mental seed, they might do something. So he smiled bitterly and said, the inheritance of this ancient southern capital isn't something that can be obtained directly after entering, but requires passing an assessment. The first level is to analyze some mysterious mystic runes, and the second level is to analyze some true essence structure. Unfortunately, I failed to complete either, so I was teleported out. What? There's still an assessment. Everyone was dumbfounded and stunned. From the preliminary assessment to now, these geniuses had experienced so many assessments. They didn't expect that the final inheritance would continue to require assessment, leaving everyone dumbfounded and speechless. Then you wouldn't have obtained any inheritance at all, right? Someone asked doubtfully, expressing suspicion. I did obtain some, but they're nothing much, Sichu Sheng explained. Is that so? Some people believed it, but others were suspicious, feeling that Sichu Sheng wasn't telling the truth. However, with everyone watching, they couldn't say anything and could only leave, waiting for the subsequent people to come out. On the side, Sichu Sheng was taken aside by an expert from his force, who said in a deep voice, did you really not obtain anything? Reporting to Grand Elder, I actually obtained a secret manual, Sichu Sheng replied. A secret manual. The elder frowned. Yes. Sichu Sheng nodded, looked around, and whispered, that's right, and it should be a mid-grade Earth-tier secret manual. What? The expert was shocked and excited. Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? Although Xuanzhou was above the 5 nations, the strongest cultivation technique secret manuals of the top forces were often only low-grade Earth-tier. And a mid-grade Earth-tier secret manual would be enough to cause a frenzy in the entire Great Wei dynasty, attracting the covetousness of many experts. There's definitely no mistake. Despite being the first to be eliminated, Sichu Sheng's mind still received an inheritance at the moment of elimination, obtaining a mid-grade Earth-tier cultivation technique. Let's go. We'll leave immediately. The expert's eyes narrowed, and he immediately knew the severity of the situation. If the other forces who failed to obtain an inheritance knew that his Void sect had obtained a mid-grade Earth-tier secret manual, it would definitely attract the covetousness of countless people. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. This person was decisive and no longer paid any attention or curiosity to Qin Chen and the others who had not come out, leading Sichu Sheng and the experts of his force to leave the ancient southern capital instantly. Why are the people from the Void sect leaving? Seeing this scene, many people's eyes narrowed, sensing that something was wrong. The Grand Elder of Wukong sect is extremely cunning. There must be a reason for leaving so early. Perhaps Sichu Sheng obtained some treasure inside. What perhaps? It should be certain. Should we chase after them? Chase after them. What can you do even if you catch up? Do you want to start a war with Wukong sect? But are we just going to watch them leave with the treasure? HMPH. Go if you want. Even if there is a treasure, Sichu Sheng was the first to be teleported out, so the things he got must be the worst. The things obtained by the remaining 11 people will definitely be better. When that time comes. That's right. We can't afford to offend forces like Tianheng Academy, Emperor Heart City, and Liuxian sect. But among the 12 people who accepted the inheritance, 6 are from the 5 nations, so that. He. Many people present looked at the people from the 5 nations, a cold glint flashing deep in their eyes, blatantly coveting them. The people from the 5 nations felt the gazes of the Xuanzu experts and a bad premonition arose in their hearts. They exchanged glances, their eyes filled with helplessness. They were powerless to do anything about this situation and could only feel uneasy, hoping that the people of Xuanzu would consider their reputation. At this moment, inside the mysterious palace, whoosh. After Qin Chen finished absorbing the mysterious true essence, he was instantly enveloped in light and disappeared from the spot. I should have entered the next level. But what will be in this next level? Qin Chen was curious. The previous secret patterns and mysterious true essence had brought him great benefits, so what treasure would be in this 3rd level? His body lightened and he arrived in a mysterious space. There was nothing in the entire space, just emptiness. Emptiness. Qin Chen was stunned. He carefully looked around, but everything was empty and there was nothing. What does this mean? Qin Chen was puzzled. Could it be that something was hidden in this 3rd level? Standing in the void, Qin Chen carefully stared at everything around him, searching for clues. But there was nothing. Just emptiness. Suddenly. Buzz. A black line suddenly appeared in the empty space in front of him. This line, like a twisted black thread, emitted a mysterious light and flowed slowly. This is. Qin Chen stared intently. He saw that more and more black lines appeared in the empty space, slowly forming an extremely complex pattern, emitting a very vast aura. This is a cultivation technique diagram. Could it be that the inheritance of this 3rd level is to have me cultivate this mysterious technique? Qin Chen held his breath. The cultivation technique diagram in front of him was incomparably complex, far surpassing some of the heaven rank cultivation techniques Qin Chen had seen in his previous life, and could even be compared to the 9-star God Emperor art. Too terrifying. This kind of cultivation technique is definitely beyond the comparison of heaven rank techniques. Could it be another technique that surpasses the heaven rank? Qin Chen was shocked. After cultivating the 9-star God Emperor art, he deeply understood the importance of a powerful cultivation technique. Now, with such a technique appearing again, the shock to him was naturally indescribable. Let's try it. Immediately, Qin Chen stared at the mysterious cultivation technique diagram in front of him, and his whole person entered a state of deduction and comprehension. At the top of the mysterious palace, the Black Wall of the ancient southern capital was quietly examining the situation on each star path. When Qin Chen entered the 3rd level, the black figure suddenly stood up. It's activated. The assessment set by my clan's predecessors has actually been activated. That Qin Chen actually completed the tests of the 1st and 2nd levels and entered the 3rd level. Could it be that the plan set by my clan's experts in ancient times is finally about to be realized? The black figure trembled with excitement. No, I can't be too happy yet. But soon, it woke up and its eyes returned to calmness. This 3rd level's technique is extremely important. The previous 2 levels of assessment were just to prepare for this 3rd level. The difficulty is so high that ordinary people can't achieve it. Although this Qin Chen's talent is amazing, it will probably be very difficult to completely complete this 3rd level's assessment. Now it depends on how far this person can go. But no matter how far he goes, combined with the golden seed of spiritual power he obtained before, the plan set by my clan's predecessors is equivalent to being half completed. The will of the ancient southern capital looked forward to it. This star game contains a great secret. This secret is related to an important plan that their clan had once set. As long as it succeeds, a huge key can be unlocked. Now, Qin Chen is the closest person to this plan. The void space of the 3rd level. Qin Chen was completely immersed in the cultivation technique in front of him. Profound. Too profound. The cultivation technique in front of him and the 9-star God Emperor art can be said to have complementary effects. But there was also one thing that made Qin Chen extremely puzzled, and that was that the running route of the technique in front of him was completely different from that of a normal technique. Strange. The human body contains mysterious treasures and is more complicated than anything else, so various cultivation techniques and secrets can be derived. However, the essence of the cultivation technique should be based on the human body. According to reason, even if the operation mode is different and the cultivation model is different, the core essence should be the same. But how can this technique in front of me seem to have irreconcilable contradictions with the normal human body? Qin Chen was puzzled. He couldn't understand. For example, this running route. According to the 9-star God Emperor art, the human body has a total of 12 meridians. There is no problem in running through the Ren meridian or the Qin meridian, but this technique runs through the middle position of the two meridians. That place is just an ordinary meridian. How can it withstand such a huge operation of true essence? And this place is the same. This place is the divine gate. If it accommodates true essence, it will affect a person's spirit and soul, making it violent. Therefore, the accommodation of true essence must be extremely careful. However, this technique allows the true essence to mainly gather in this place. If ordinary martial artists practice this technique, I'm afraid they would have already died from chi deviation due to the rupture of the divine gate before they even succeeded. Unless the cultivator's physical body is strong to the point of being perverted, and the divine gate's wall can block the invasion of true essence, there may be a glimmer of hope. And this place. Immersed in the cultivation technique in front of him, Qin Chen immediately discovered many problems. These problems should not have appeared on such a mysterious cultivation technique at all. They were all some primary errors, but they happened to appear in this technique. Oh, there is actually a solution here. It's the previous secret pattern technique. Could it be that the predecessors of the ancient southern capital also discovered the errors in this technique, so they designed a set of secret pattern methods to solve the problems in this technique and supplement it? Suddenly, Qin Chen saw that in some places below where he clearly felt there were errors, the other party used secret patterns to outline and explain them. For example, the meridian between the conception vessel and the Qin vessel was previously not strong enough. The other party proposed a solution using a secret pattern, utilizing the pattern to reinforce this meridian within oneself, allowing it to withstand the circulation of terrifying true force. It was miraculous. Profound. It left Qin Chen completely captivated. It felt as if a brand new door had been opened. These secret patterns are indeed miraculous, possessing such effects. No wonder the first layer was about letting us comprehend the basics of these secret patterns. It turns out they can be used in this way. Qin Chen was shocked. He finally understood. Every layer of the ancient South capital's legacy had its meaning. If you didn't understand it, it was only because you hadn't reached that step yet. However, the cultivation technique I practice is the undying saint body, whose strength far surpasses ordinary martial artists. Moreover, the 9-star divine emperor art has made every single meridian in my body incredibly powerful, surpassing those of martial artists at the same level. Other martial artists would definitely need these secret patterns to cultivate, but I might not necessarily. Immediately, Qin Chen immersed himself in comprehension while practicing, gradually beginning to cultivate. Meanwhile, while Qin Chen was comprehending the cultivation technique in the mysterious space, on the other star paths, everyone else was also undergoing comprehension. However, not everyone was able to reach the same level as Qin Chen in terms of secret patterns and true force analysis. Difficult. Too difficult. What kind of true force structure is this? Everyone felt a headache. I can't do it anymore. Among them, Wei Qingchen was soon teleported out, following closely behind Sichu Sheng. Profound square undying body, this is a mid-earth tier body refinement technique. At the same time he was teleported out, a legacy belonging to Wei Qingchen appeared in his mind, which was a defensive type manual. It's actually a mid-earth tier body refinement technique. Although the legacy attempt failed, Wei Qingchen was still overjoyed. He had shown astonishing talent in body refinement very early on. Previously, By merely cultivating a low Earth tier body refinement technique, his defense had already reached an extremely astonishing level, allowing him to enter the top 12. Now, having obtained a cultivation technique so suited to himself, once he cultivated it to great completion, what astonishing level would he reach? Becoming one of the heavens favored was definitely not just an imagination. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. And after Wei Qingshan's failure, Meng Xingjue, Yuan Feng, Gui Ying, and Wang Qiming were also eliminated one after another. One by one, they were teleported out. However, after being teleported out, a set of cultivation techniques appeared in their minds, and the tier of the technique received also varied depending on the length of time they spent receiving the legacy. Among them, Wang Qiming, who left last, actually received a high Earth tier saber technique. Wind and Cloud Demon Saber Art. As the legacy attempts of Wei Qingshan and others concluded. Outside the ancient South capital, the many experts from Xuanzhu and the Five Nations also learned about the content of the legacy, as well as the situation where everyone had obtained a manual. Instantly, the atmosphere on the scene became subtle. Mid-Earth tier cultivation techniques were not to be underestimated, even by the many top forces from Xuanzhu present, their eyes all revealed greed. Interesting. Mid-Earth tier cultivation techniques. It seems this trip to the Five Nations was indeed not in vain. An expert from the Great Wei dynasty sneered, a sinister smile on his lips, his eyes like those of a hungry wolf staring at its prey, emitting a faint green light. This scene caused the people from the Five Nations to feel their hearts sink. They felt a sense of unease. Especially the people from the Great Liang Kingdom and Xiao Zhan, their hearts were heavy and filled with extreme anxiety. Let's go. The Five Nations Grand Competition is over. We shall take our leave first. Wei Tianming had already learned from Yuan Feng that he had obtained a mid-Earth tier cultivation technique and immediately wanted to leave. However, before he could descend from the high platform, whoosh whoosh whoosh, a group of experts from the Great Wei dynasty suddenly flew over and blocked the path of several people. Wei Tianming's heart sank, and he frowned, saying, "What are you gentlemen doing?" You must be the expert from the Great Liang Kingdom, Wei Tianming, right? It is said you are also the top expert of the Five Nations, a half-step martial ancestor. Not bad, not bad. Your strength is indeed not weak. A Xuanzhu expert sized up Wei Tianming and laughed sinisterly. Wei Tianming's expression became even uglier, and he said in a deep voice, "What do you want?" "We don't want to do anything. It's just that the ancient South capital grand competition hasn't ended yet. As the top expert of the Five Nations, wouldn't it be inappropriate for you to leave early?" Another expert from Sky Eagle Valley, his eyes sharp and fierce, a cold smile on his lips. "Apologies. My Great Liang Kingdom still has important matters that require my return to handle. I shall take my leave first." Wei Tianming took a deep breath, swallowing his anger. The several people opposite him were all fifth-order martial ancestors. Any single one of them had strength above his, making Wei Tianming dare not act presumptuously. "That won't do." Someone sneered. "Hey, Brother Joe, your words aren't quite right." Another person laughed. "If Great Master Wei truly has important matters and wants to leave, it's not impossible. However, that Yuan Feng will probably have to stay. After all, the legacy hasn't concluded yet, and as a winning participant, how can Yuan Feng leave so early?" Brother Li is right. If Great Master Wei wants to leave, then go ahead and leave by yourself. The Xuanzhu people, one by one, all laughed, their eyes filled with mockery. They naturally had no intentions regarding Wei Tianming, but Yuan Feng was one of the 12 chosen participants who received the legacy. He might have obtained some heaven-defying manual. How could they allow him to leave so easily? In the distance, other Xuanzhu experts remained expressionless but all wore cold smiles on their lips, watching this spot. Wei Tianming was so angry his whole body trembled. "Master." Yuan Feng was beside him, his eyes sharp, a cold light flashing in them, unable to resist taking a step forward. Boom! An astonishing killing intent emerged from his body. "Feng, don't be reckless." Wei Tianming quickly stopped Yuan Feng and said in a deep voice, "Let's go back first." Immediately, the group of people retreated back onto the high platform. "HMPH, did you see that? Just now, that Yuan Feng seemed to want to fight us. He simply doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This person thinks he can fight us just because he entered the top 12. Too naive. Truly a newborn calf not afraid of a tiger. It's a pity he didn't make a move just now. Otherwise, we could have captured this person legitimately. Those few Xuanzu experts didn't step forward either. They just stood with their arms crossed, discussing and sneering. If you ask me, let's just capture that Yuan Feng and Wang Qiming first. Anyway, these two nations don't have any experts. Someone in the Great Wei dynasty crowd sneered, somewhat unable to restrain themselves. No rush. Didn't you see? The three major sects haven't made a move yet. Before everyone finishes receiving the legacy, let's remain calm and not be the first bird out. Also, the Ghost Immortal sect from the 5 nations is a bit strange. Don't act rashly, but someone on the side advised against it. This immediately calmed down the Xuanzu experts who were originally somewhat restless. In their eyes, the people from the 5 nations were already turtles in a jar, they just couldn't make a move for now. When everyone finished receiving the legacy, that would be the time for them to reveal their true intentions. However, even though the people from the 3 major forces didn't make a move, these experts from Xuanzhou didn't stop trying to make things difficult for the people from the 5 nations. Hee. Since we're not making a move yet, that's fine, but these people from the 5 nations are extremely cunning and deceitful. In my opinion, we should control these people first. That's right. If they play tricks and run away in secret, that would be troublesome. Since that's the case, what's there to say? Immediately, one Xuanzhou powerhouse after another walked towards the people of the 5 nations with a sneer. Everyone, this great Liang nation will be watched over by this old man. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. With a cold laugh, several experts from Sky Eagle Valley immediately flew towards the Great Liang Nation, landing directly on the high platform of the Great Liang Nation. Sky Eagle Valley was considered a not weak force in Xuanzhou. This time, they also led the disciples to participate in the ancient southern capital competition, but they didn't expect to gain any advantage. Naturally, they were dissatisfied and wanted to gain something. Seeing this, several other Xuanzhou experts couldn't restrain themselves and also landed on the high platform, surrounding the people of the Great Liang Nation. What do you guys mean by this? Wei Tianming's face was gloomy, and he was trembling with anger. He had already retreated to the high platform, but he didn't expect that these people from Xuanzhou would still not let him go, taking an inch and wanting a mile. Could it be that they are really so lawless? Everyone is a master of the Great Wei dynasty. Naturally, you know the rules set by the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Holy Land, that you cannot slaughter people from weak forces for no reason. Could it be that you want to risk the world's condemnation and attack our 5 nations? Wei Tianming forced himself to take a breath and shouted sternly. Hee. Grandmaster Wei, don't worry. We've come up here not to attack you, but simply because we think the scenery on the high platform is good, so we've come up to take a look. What? Is it only Grandmaster Wei who is allowed to enjoy the scenery on the high platform, and we're not allowed to come up? Ha. Brother Joe is right, we're just here to see the scenery. Grandmaster Wei wouldn't mind so much, would he? Hee. The voices of several people echoed in the open space outside the ancient southern capital, immediately attracting laughter from many Xuanzhou powerhouses. Wei Tianming's face was gloomy with anger. How could he not know that these people were doing it on purpose? However, the situation was stronger than people. Since the other party insisted on saying so, he had no choice but to swallow his anger and dare not act rashly. Sky Eagle Valley has occupied the Great Liang Nation. Now, there are also the Ghost Immortal sect and the Great Qi Nation. Disciples have already returned, presumably having obtained powerful secret manuals. Why don't we take action too? Seeing Sky Eagle Valley and the others take action, many of the remaining Xuanzhou forces couldn't restrain themselves either. This time, there were only 6 disciples from the 5 nations who entered the ancient southern capital and obtained inheritances in total. Among them, 2 from the Ghost Immortal sect, 2 from the Great Qi Nation, 1 each from the Great Liang Nation and the Lingtian sect. And now, the ones who came out first were Ghost Shadow from the Ghost Immortal sect, Wang Qiming from the Great Qi Nation, and Yuan Feng from the Great Liang Nation. It can be said that the number of people was small. However, the number of Xuanzhou forces that came to the Five Nations this time was extremely large. If they didn't take action first, it was very likely that they would be occupied by others, and in the end, they would get nothing. Go. Ha ha. This old man will go to the Great Qi Nation. In addition to Wang Qiming, there is also Qin Chen in the Great Qi Nation who has not yet come out, presumably with even greater gains. One Xuanzhou master after another laughed loudly, and they all swept towards the Great Qi Nation and the Lingtian sect. Among them, there were almost no Xuanzhou masters at the location of the Ghost Immortal sect. Of the remaining locations of the Great Qi Nation and the Lingtian sect, the number of the Great Qi Nation was the largest, and the number of powerhouses was almost more than double that of the Lingtian sect. Although these Xuanzhou masters were arrogant, they were not idiots. The few black-clothed old men from the Ghost Immortal sect were mysterious. They even dared to confront the powerhouses of Tianheng Academy before. Although they were interested, out of fear, they naturally chose the soft persimmon to pinch. Not good. At the location of the Great Qi Nation, Xiao Zhan and the others had been paying attention to the actions of the Xuanzhou powerhouses. Seeing many masters flying over, their hearts sank. Lord Spiritual Martial King, what should we do now? Yes, Lord Xiao Zhan. Many disciples of the Great Qi Nation showed panic on their faces. For them, the martial sect masters of Xuanzhou were like the sky, and they had no ability to resist at all. On the contrary, Wang Qiming, Zhao Lingshan, and the others all had cold eyes, flashing with unyielding color. Don't worry, wait for Qin Chen to come out before we talk. Xiao Zhan's heart sank, but he still pretended to be calm and said uneasily. As soon as he finished speaking, several Xuanzhou masters had already landed on the high platform where the Great Qi Nation was located. Seeing that Xiao Zhan and the others were still able to remain calm, a trace of astonishment could not help but appear on the faces of these people. Everyone, we're just looking at the scenery on your high platform, you shouldn't have any objections, right? A Xuanzhou master came to Xiao Zhan and said with a half smile, seemingly asking, but with an unquestionable tone in his voice. He, why bother, brother Tianluo? We're looking at the scenery on this high platform, do we still need the consent of these wastes from the Five Nations? That's right, this place is not the private property of these wastes from the Five Nations. Why waste so much words with them? The few Xuanzhou powerhouses who followed all laughed, with sarcasm in their voices. The arrogance of that posture made Wang Qiming and the others blush, and the anger in their hearts was burning like fire, and they couldn't help but step forward. You all step back. Xiao Zhan's face sank, and he repeatedly asked Wang Qiming and the others to retreat, and then looked at the Xuanzhou masters, and said with a smile, this high platform is very big, if you want to see the scenery, please enjoy it. If it really doesn't work, it doesn't matter if we give this place to you. Xiao Zhan knew very well that the other party was doing this to anger them so that they could take action. Ha ha, ha ha ha. As soon as Xiao Zhan finished speaking, these Xuanzhou masters all laughed, saying that the people of the Five Nations are wastes is really not wrong. Everyone, did you hear that? We want to occupy their high platform, but they didn't even dare to fart, and they even want to give it to us. Ha ha, does my Ti sect need you to give it to us? The leading Xuanzhou Ti sect master laughed loudly, the laughter rumbling, echoing in the sky above the entire ancient southern capital, with sarcasm on each face. You, who are you calling wastes? HMPH. A bunch of trash sects whose disciples can't even enter the top 24, I don't know where they get their sense of superiority from, flaunting their power here. It seems that the disciples are not good, they can't get results, they are wastes. The old wastes who are elders are dissatisfied, so they come up to make trouble. Wang Qiming and the others could no longer bear it, and they all sneered. A man's blood is hot, since the other party is clearly trying to use them as a knife, why bother swallowing their anger? What did you say, kid? Say that again if you have the guts. Insolent. Wang Qiming and the others' words instantly tore open the wounds of this group, and they were instantly enraged. One of the Xuanzhou martial lords couldn't bear it and directly grabbed towards Wang Qiming. The huge palm was like an eagle's claw, as fast as lightning. Kid, don't think that just because you got into the top 12, you're a big deal. If you don't kneel down and apologize today, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. This person was full of murderous aura, and an astonishing aura permeated his body. The huge hand claw instantly descended on top of Wang Qiming's head. What are you doing? Xiao Zhan's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Humph! A piece of trash who isn't even a martial lord dares to be arrogant in front of this old man. The strong man sneered, his body shook, and a terrifying force instantly shot out. Xiao Zhan only felt an astonishing power sweeping over him, and the protective true energy on his body instantly shattered. With a phew sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Strong. Too strong. Although Xiao Zhan had entered the half-step martial lord realm, it hadn't been long, and besides, his opponent was an old brand martial lord powerhouse from Xuanzhou. How could he be a match? With just one move, he was blasted away and seriously injured. Boom! The terrifying palm directly landed on top of Wang Qiming's head. The palm was huge, as if it was going to pick up Wang Qiming like a chicken. Lord Xiao Zhan. Wang Qiming was shocked, and in his shock and anger, he didn't know when, his right hand had already grasped the battle knife at his waist. His eyes stared coldly at the other party, and a terrifying aura rose from his body. Clang! At the same time, there was also an amazing sword intent rising into the sky. Crackling! The sword intent was dazzling, with an astonishing meaning of destruction, and wanted to split the Xuanzhou powerhouse's palm in half. The Xuanzhou powerhouse who made the move saw this and his face changed drastically. What a strong sword intent. A disciple from the 5 nations is actually so strong. No wonder many of my Xuanzhou disciples have been defeated by him, allowing him to enter the top 12, but these alone are far from enough. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly rose from the opponent's body, and a terrifying bloodline power permeated, combining with the black palm. The palm, which was originally crumbling under Wang Qiming's destruction sword intent, became solid again, emitting a hazy light, covering everything. Kid, if you dare to be disrespectful to my Xuanzhou powerhouse, you must be prepared to be taught a lesson. The strong man had a sneer on his face, and had already made up his mind that once he captured Wang Qiming, he would interrogate him severely, first asking about the inheritance he obtained in the ancient southern capital, and then he would have no problem advancing or retreating. Damn it! Is this the martial lord powerhouse? I'll fight him. Circulating the true energy in his body, Wang Qiming was about to go all out. Just then, a gloomy voice suddenly sounded. Is it too much to not put me in your eyes, when you bully the person I want to protect in front of me? Whoosh! As soon as the voice fell, a gloomy aura suddenly appeared behind the Xuanzhou powerhouse. This aura was as cold as a poisonous snake, as if something disgusting in the darkness was staring at him, making the Xuanzhou powerhouse feel a wet feeling on his back. Who is it, daring to sneak attack this old man? With an angry shout, the Xuanzhou powerhouse didn't care about attacking Wang Qiming, and hurriedly turned around and slapped out a palm. Boom! A gloomy force suddenly rushed into his body, the Xuanzhou powerhouse staggered back a few steps, his face was faintly pale, and his eyes flickered. I saw a black figure suddenly flying up from the crowd below, and came to the side of the high platform where the Great Qi Kingdom was located. This person's face was completely covered in a cloak. It was the black slave who Qin Chen said would protect him earlier. Who is your excellency, daring to stop this old man? This 5 nations disciple previously humiliated my Xuanzhou powerhouse. Does your excellency want to be an enemy of my many Xuanzhou powerhouses? Chen Tianluo of Ti sect, his face sank, and he said unhappily. But between his brows, there was all vigilance. Before the ancient southern capital assessment, the Daixin young master Dai Qianyi had a conflict with this Qin Chen of the Great Qi Kingdom, but the Qin Chen was not afraid at all, and said that this cloaked man named Black Slave would protect him. At that time, the top powerhouses of the 3 major forces had all spied on this person, but to no avail. Chen Tianluo, as the vice-sect master of Ti sect, although his cultivation was extraordinary, he also knew that this cloaked man's strength was extraordinary, so he did not dare to act rashly. GGG, be an enemy of your Xuanzhou. Can a small 5th-order early-stage martial lord represent the entire Xuanzhou? Hearing this, the cloaked man laughed. His laughter was hoarse. gloomy and incomparable, like a poisonous scorpion, making people's goosebumps stand up all over their bodies, and it was extremely terrifying. A small fifth-order early-stage martial lord. Your Excellency has such a big tone. I want to see, what ability does Your Excellency have, to dare to say this? Chen Tianluo was completely angry. His figure shook, and he suddenly appeared in front of the cloaked man, and slapped the cloaked man fiercely. Boom! The palm wind swept, representing the terrifying strength of a fifth-order martial lord, suddenly erupted. An astonishing aura swept, only to hear a rumbling sound, the air vibrated, and a huge palm slammed down towards the cloaked man. This palm was more than twice as strong as when he dealt with Wang Qiming before. Obviously it was an all-out attack under his anger, to test the cloaked man's strength. GG. Faced with such a terrifying attack, the cloaked man was not afraid, and even laughed strangely. At the moment when the other party's palm was about to fall, his right hand stretched out, revealing a withered palm, and collided with the vast palm. One side was a terrifying palm containing amazing palm power, and the other side was a thin and weak arm like a withered tree. Anyone with discerning eyes could see which one was stronger and which one was weaker. But the ending was beyond everyone's expectations. Ah! A shrill scream sounded. Chen Tianluo's palm touched the cloaked man's palm, and immediately issued a shocking roar. The whole person covered his palm, and retreated in embarrassment, avoiding it like a snake and scorpion. I saw that his right hand was pitch black, and a gloomy black gas was rapidly spreading on his right hand, climbing towards his upper arm. Wherever the black gas went, there was a piercing pain. You actually used poison. Chen Tianluo was shocked and angry, and hurriedly swallowed a large number of detoxification pills, trying to alleviate the spread of the poisonous gas. But no matter what kind of detoxification pills he took, it was useless. Wherever the black gas went, the skin began to fester, like 10,000 ants devouring his heart. Vice Sect Master. An elder of the Tiyi sect saw this and his face turned pale, and he roared at the cloaked man. What kind of poison did you use? Quickly bring the antidote. Antidote. My poison has no antidote. The only way is to cut off the arm. Otherwise you will watch your Vice Sect Master, fester and die. GG, GGG. Vice Sect Master. The elder was both shocked and angry, but he didn't know what to do. He wanted to rescue Chen Tianluo, but he didn't know how to start, and to deal with the cloaked man. Even the Vice Sect Master Chen Tianluo was not an opponent. He could only be courting death if he went up. Just as he was hesitating, a shrill scream sounded, and everyone saw Chen Tianluo couldn't bear the pain, and personally cut off his right hand. The severed half of his arm fell on the ground, and immediately made a sizzling sound, emitting green smoke, and instantly turned into a pool of pus. Hiss. The whole audience instantly sounded a burst of gasping for air. Everyone's faces changed when they looked at the cloaked man, becoming extremely fearful and terrified. What kind of poison is this? It's too terrifying. In less than 10 breaths, it completely corroded the arm of Chen Tianluo, the deputy sect leader of the Tiyi sect. If they were contaminated, how could they possibly be okay? You must know. Although Chen Tianluo was not the strongest expert in this trip to Xuanzhou, he was not weak either. His cultivation had already reached the peak of the early stage of the 5th rank. However, even such an expert couldn't withstand a single move from the cloaked man's attack. What kind of strength is this? Hiss. Gasps of cold air rose and fell among the crowd. Even the experts from the 3 top forces in Xuanzhou narrowed their eyes, looking at the cloaked man with secret apprehension. What? Are you few not going to get down here? Do you want to experience this as well? The cloaked man glanced at the remaining Xuanzhou experts on the high platform, speaking in a cold tone. The Xuanzhou experts exchanged glances, apprehensive in their hearts. However, it would be too embarrassing for them to just go down like this. One of them snorted coldly and said angrily, "Your Excellency has ruthless methods. However, do you think that defeating Chen Tianluo means that there is no one left in my Xuanzhou?" After speaking, he looked towards the 3 major forces, clearly intending to draw them in. Enough. The great elder of the Lixian sect said in a low voice, "The inheritance is not over yet, retreat for now." What? The words of the great elder of the Liuxian sect caused many experts in Xuanzu to change their expressions. What does this mean? Could it be that they want to let the other party go? Although they were indignant in their hearts, they could only swallow their anger and retreat since the three major forces had spoken. The people from the three major forces knew what these people were thinking. They simply wanted him to come forward and fight the cloaked man. But now, it was not the time at all. Seeing the Xuanzu experts descend from the high platform, Xiao Zhan wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then, they came to the cloaked man and cupped their hands, saying, "Thank you, Senior, for your help. We are extremely grateful." The cloaked man smiled slightly, and said in a kind tone, "Don't worry, everyone. Since you are friends of Qin Chen, you are naturally friends of mine. With me here, these people from Xuanzu will not be able to harm you." The cloaked man said in his mouth, but sneered in his heart, "HMPH, I'll get acquainted with these disciples from the Darky Kingdom first. When the time comes, it will be easier to snatch back the Azure Lotus demonic fire from Qin Chen." Wang Qiming and the others naturally didn't know the relationship between the cloaked man and Qin Chen. They thought that the other party was sincerely helping, and respectfully stepped forward and said, "We will remember Senior Hainu's kindness in our hearts. Please come inside." Hainu. The cloaked man's face darkened. That brat Qin Chen actually gave him such a name, it was simply embarrassing to death. But this was also good, it could hide his true identity. "Okay, everyone, don't be too polite." Immediately, the cloaked man entered the center of the Darky Kingdom's high platform with a dark face, and stood together with Xiao Zhan and the others. After this commotion, the atmosphere in the entire arena became extremely strange and heavy. The actions of the Xuanzu people also made the people of the five nations feel chilled and tremble with fear. It was obvious that although the five nations occupied 6 places in the top 12, the Xuanzu people had no intention of letting them go at all. For a time, all the people of the five nations felt heavy in their hearts. Buzz. At this moment, outside the ancient southern capital, a trace of spatial fluctuation suddenly flashed past. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared. It was Yu Changxiu, who had been eliminated from the star constellation chess game Inheritance. As soon as she landed outside the ancient southern capital, she instantly felt the strange atmosphere in the arena. At the same time, she also saw that on the high platform of the Lingtian sect, there were actually many martial sect experts from Xuanzu standing there. Seeing her appear, the eyes of these Xuanzu martial artists instantly focused on her. These eyes were extremely unkind, giving Yu Changxiu a feeling of being stabbed in the back. "What's going on?" Yu Changxiu frowned. "Changxiu, come here." Before she could think more, Yu Wuzhen, the sect master of the Lingtian sect, immediately came to her side and pulled her back. "Father, what happened here?" Yu Changxiu said in a deep voice. She keenly sensed that the atmosphere in the arena was extremely strange, and the eyes of the many experts of the Dewei dynasty around her were extremely malicious, their sharpness fully revealed. "Changxiu, did you obtain an extremely powerful secret manual in this ancient southern capital Inheritance?" Yu Wuzhen did not answer her words, but asked nervously. Yu Changxiu was stunned. "Father, how do you know?" "I did obtain a sword technique secret manual." As soon as the words fell, she suddenly woke up and already understood the reason why the atmosphere in the arena was so strange. "Father, is it that these experts of the Dewei dynasty covet the Inheritance secret manuals we obtained and want to take them away?" Yu Changxiu was annoyed in her heart. The ancient southern capital Inheritance was originally the ruins of the five nations. These martial artists of the Dewei dynasty not only occupied the assessment quota, but also wanted to plunder the inheritance they obtained from the ancient southern capital. It was really too much. "Changxiu, don't worry about so much. If there is a conflict later, if you have a chance, escape quickly. Don't stay, remember that." Yu Wuzhen said in a low voice, a trace of determination flowing in his eyes. Yu Changxiu's heart trembled, and she already understood her father's thoughts, and her heart warmed. "Father, don't worry, the conspiracy of these Xuanzu martial artists will not succeed," Yu Changxiu said with firm eyes. Yu Wuzhen smiled bitterly. Yu Changxiu didn't know the power of the Dewei dynasty's experts at all, so she said such words. If she knew how terrifying the Dewey dynasty was, she probably wouldn't say that. No matter what, you must find a way to leave if there is a conflict later. Yu Wajan sighed. Although he was a famous sect master among the 5 nations, he had no ability to resist the experts of the Dewey dynasty. Now, he could only resign himself to fate. At this time, inside the star constellation chess game, Qin Chen was still frantically comprehending the mysterious technique in front of him. Buzz. In his body, many true energies quickly circulated according to the illustrations of the mysterious technique in front of him, and an astonishing aura began to revive from his body. 1 cycle, 10 cycles, 72 cycles, 108 cycles. When Qin Chen ran 108 cycles according to the route of that technique, Buzz, a trace of strange power suddenly emerged from his body and appeared in his meridians. This is the strange true energy from the second layer before. Qin Chen's expression froze. The true energy cultivated according to this mysterious technique was exactly the same as the strange true energy absorbed in the second layer before. As soon as this trace of true energy was born, Qin Chen's body suddenly felt severe pain, unable to bear such strange power. However, when he was on the second floor, Qin Chen had already analyzed the structure of this true energy and immediately adjusted it. Soon, the severe pain in his body gradually disappeared, and that trace of true energy slowly integrated into the true energy originally cultivated by Qin Chen's 9-star God Emperor technique. When the 2 streams of true power converged, a fierce conflict immediately erupted, causing an astonishing sharp pain that made Qin Chen groan involuntarily, his body convulsing. What's going on? Why is the 9-star God Emperor art so resistant to the true power generated by this mysterious cultivation technique? Qin Chen was shocked. Generally speaking, true power cultivated from different techniques indeed cannot be arbitrarily merged, as each type of true power has its own attributes. However, phenomena like the fierce conflict that just occurred are extremely rare. No, this is only a trace of true power I've cultivated. As more of this strange true power is cultivated, the conflict within my body will grow larger and larger. At that point, even the indestructible saint body I cultivate will be completely unable to withstand such terrifying conflict. Qin Chen felt a headache coming on. Under the current circumstances, he simply couldn't continue cultivating this mysterious technique. Unless he abandoned the cultivation technique he was originally practicing. But the 9-star God Emperor art was the technique he had been cultivating since his rebirth, and it was extremely powerful, originating from the Forbidden Land. Although this ancient South capital ruin was terrifying, he couldn't possibly discard the 9-star God Emperor art directly and switch to cultivating this mysterious technique. What's more, this mysterious technique had always given him a very uncomfortable feeling. However, the thought of directly abandoning the ancient South capital's inheritance left him somewhat unwilling. Furthermore, the ancient South capital's inheritance, the first and second layers of assessment before, were actually laying the groundwork for this third layer's cultivation technique. The secret patterns in the first layer were to enable them to cultivate this technique. The strange true power in the second layer was to make them familiar with the attributes of the true power produced by this technique. Therefore, Qin Chen had reason to believe the secret of the ancient South capital's inheritance lay within this mysterious cultivation technique he was currently practicing. Right. Before, in the second layer, I also couldn't withstand this strange true power. It was only after my thunder bloodline underwent refinement that my body was able to continue absorbing it. Suddenly, Qin Chen remembered the previous scene and quickly activated the thunder bloodline within his body. Boom! A large amount of lightning quickly surged out, enveloping the trace of strange true power he had condensed. As expected, under the refinement of the thunder bloodline, that trace of strange true power immediately became pure, and when it merged with the 9-star God Emperor art's true power, there was no longer any resistance. There's a chance. While Qin Chen was overjoyed, he immediately frantically circulated this mysterious cultivation technique. Traces of mysterious true power were rapidly generated, and then under the refinement of the thunder bloodline, they transformed into pure power. But after the mysterious true power reached a certain amount, buzz, Qin Chen immediately felt a portion of the mysterious true power being separated and instantly absorbed by the golden spiritual seed previously planted in his mind. The golden spiritual seed is absorbing this mysterious power I've cultivated. Could it be that the purpose of this technique is to nourish this golden seed? For some reason, at this moment, a very uncomfortable feeling suddenly rose in Qin Chen's heart. But this uncomfortable feeling quickly disappeared. As Qin Chen continuously cultivated, those traces of true power rapidly integrated into the golden seed in his mind. Gradually, the patterns on the golden seed became increasingly bright, as if it had come alive. An extremely powerful feeling emanated from Qin Chen's body. What a miraculous spiritual seed! At this moment, Qin Chen was completely shocked. No wonder the ancient South capitals will said this golden spiritual seed was a treasure, it was too powerful. At this very moment, Qin Chen had a feeling that although his cultivation was only at the peak of the late Earth realm, under the activation of this golden spiritual seed, he had vaguely stepped into the martial lord realm. To allow a fourth-order Earth realm martial artist to cross a major realm and possess the power of a fifth-order martial lord, this could no longer be described using ordinary treasures. However, activating this spiritual seed requires consuming a large amount of true power energy. I must cultivate as much of this strange true power as possible to be prepared for unexpected needs. While Qin Chen was deep in thought and cultivation, the ancient South capitals will also notice the light from the spiritual seed on Qin Chen. In its deep eyes, a never-before-seen light was revealed. Excellent! Someone has actually successfully cultivated the technique set by our ancestors. The black figure was so excited it was even trembling. How many years has it been? How many tens of thousands of years? The ancestors' concept has actually been realized. The black figures intensely fluctuating will made it hard to imagine that this was just a wisp of consciousness and not a living being. However, having only Qin Chen successfully cultivate it is not yet safe. If someone else can also achieve it, then the plan set by the ancestors will likely be perfect. The black figure stared intently at the other few star paths. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As time passed, Leng Wushuang, Hua Tiandu, and Dai Tianyi were also successively eliminated. After all, the three of them were called prodigies in Xuanzu, but compared to Qin Chen, they were too far behind. Just their comprehension of secret patterns was simply incomparable. On the other hand, Mo Li, who was a spiritualist himself, had a comprehension of secret patterns that surpassed Dai Tianyi and the other two. Surprisingly, in this third layer, he also cultivated a trace of strange true power. Buzz. In his mind, silver light flickered. That was his silver spiritual seed radiating power. Moreover, compared to Qin Chen's spiritual seed, the spiritual seed on Mo Li was more at ease, as if the two were originally one entity. Good. Good. This child can also cultivate our clan's technique. Although he is far inferior to that Qin Chen, his physique seems to be more compatible with our clan's technique, so he can barely activate the spiritual seed. The black figure was ecstatic. Normally, it would be extremely remarkable if one person could cultivate that technique and activate the spiritual seed. Now, there were actually two people who could cultivate it. How could the black figure not be excited? That's about enough. The black figure immediately waved a hand. Buzz. In an instant, the stars shifted. Qin Chen and Mo Li, who were just cultivating, simultaneously disappeared from the star paths and reappeared in the boundless starry sky. The two exchanged glances and, seeing that only they remained, instantly understood that the other person must have also grasped a part of that mysterious technique, otherwise they wouldn't have lasted until now. Congratulations to the two of you for successfully passing the 3 layers of assessment and gaining the qualification to open the treasure of my ancient South capital ruin. The black figure had now regained its composure, standing proudly before the two, speaking indifferently. The treasure of the ancient South capital ruin. Both their hearts fiercely leaped. How terrifying would the treasure left behind by such an ancient ruin be? Even Qin Chen couldn't help but feel tempted. In fact, he didn't care about so-called treasures. What he cared about was the path to taking a stronger step forward. Because 300 years had passed, and the current Shangguan Xie and Feng Xiaoyu were no longer what they used to be. Only by far surpassing his previous life could he stand before Shangguan Xie and Feng Xiaoyu and reclaim everything that once belonged to him. Just as Qin Chen and Mo Li were excited, the will of the ancient southern capital changed its tone again. However, with your current strength, you are simply unable to open the ruins treasure. If you want to open the ruins treasure, unless you confuse the spiritual seed in your body with yourselves. When that time comes, return to the ancient southern capital and you can try to open the ruins treasure. Still need to wait for the spiritual seed to fuse with oneself. Qin Chen was stunned. How long would that take? But immediately after, Qin Chen also understood that since the will of the ancient southern capital had said so, it was obviously impossible to open the ruins treasure now. And the fastest time would be when the ancient southern capital ruins reappeared in 5 years. Aside, Mo Li glanced at Qin Chen coldly, obviously understanding this point as well. 5 years. HMPH. I will definitely surpass you and fuse this spiritual seed ahead of you. A cold light flashed in Mo Li's eyes. Losing to Qin Chen in the arena was already a disgrace in his heart, and he must surpass Qin Chen in the fusion of this spiritual seed. Alright. In addition to this, the two of you who make it to the end will also receive a powerful secret technique from my ancient southern capital ruins. The black figure waved his hand, and 2 beams of white light immediately enveloped the two of them. With a buzz, Qin Chen felt as if something had suddenly appeared in his mind. Sword control technique. Qin Chen immediately felt that an extremely profound secret technique had appeared in his mind. Also, since you have obtained the inheritance of my ancient southern capital, I see that there are many martial artists outside who want to attack you. Therefore, in a while, I will leave behind a power from the ancient southern capital ruins. You can use the secret pattern you previously mastered to control it, in order to prevent these people outside from attacking you. The will of the ancient southern capital could sense the previous confrontation outside. It had finally found 2 geniuses who could cultivate the ancestral techniques. How could it bear to let them die outside? However, the power left behind by the ancient southern capital ruins is restricted by the power of the continent, so it is not infinite. At the same time, it can only be retained for a maximum of 3 days. You too must remember this. Hopefully, the next time I see you, both of you will have fused the spiritual seed and be able to open the ruins treasure. The will of the ancient southern capital took a deep look at the two of them, and then waved his hand. Qin Chen only felt a dizziness, and he and Mo Li simultaneously disappeared from the starry sky hall and appeared outside the ancient southern capital. They're out. Qin Chen and Mo Li are out at the same time. The two of them persisted until the end. I wonder what rewards they will receive. Seeing Qin Chen and Mo Li appear, everyone became excited, and many experts from Xuanzhou flashed a hint of sternness in their eyes. Rumble. Immediately afterwards, under the shocked gazes of everyone, the ancient southern capital city rose from the ground, slowly ascended into the sky, and finally disappeared from everyone's sight. The vast city completely disappeared, leaving only a huge flat ground in the center of the high platform, appearing empty in front of everyone. Ha ha ha. The ancient southern capital ruins have finally disappeared. The inheritance is over. Presumably the will of the ancient southern capital has already left. Hee hee. Now I want to see how these people from the 5 nations will survive. All the experts from the Great Wei dynasty revealed cold smiles. Many of them did not dare to act before, entirely because they were afraid of the will of the ancient southern capital. Now that the ancient southern capital ruins had disappeared, the hearts of these people from Xuanzhou were completely liberated. They all couldn't help but gather around, each with greedy eyes. The atmosphere on the field immediately became tense. Lord Xiao Zhan, what happened here just now? At this time, Qin Chen also returned to the ranks of the Great Qi Kingdom, feeling the tense atmosphere between everyone, and couldn't help but frown and ask. At the same time, he also saw the cloaked man in the crowd. His eyes narrowed. Why are you here, sir? Qin Chen, you don't know. Just now when you were accepting the inheritance in the ancient southern capital, some experts from Xuanzhou wanted to trap us. It was your black slave friend who took action to help us resolve the crisis. Xiao Zhan quickly stepped forward to explain. These people from Xuanzhou are really bold. Hearing this, Qin Chen's eyes turned cold. At the same time, he glanced at the cloaked man and sneered in his heart. Would this person be so kind as to help the Great Qi Kingdom resist foreign enemies? He was just doing it for the things on his body. But since the other party didn't expose it, Qin Chen naturally wouldn't be foolish enough to take the initiative to expose it. Qin Chen, Senior black slave, what should we do now? Xiao Zhan asked nervously. Previously, with the help of black slave, they had indeed resisted the attack of the Tiyi sect of Xuanzhu. However, that was under the circumstance that the three major forces of Xuanzhu had not taken action. Now, the assessment of the ancient southern capital is over. The three major forces will definitely take action, not to mention that they still have grudges with the three major forces. If the three major forces decide to attack these disciples of the five nations, the strength of the five nations will be unable to stop them at all. Behind Xiao Zhan, many martial artists of the Great Qi Kingdom also understood this situation and couldn't help but feel uneasy. Boy, as long as you return the things you took from this seat promises to protect you from being humiliated by the experts of Xuanzhu, how about it? At this moment, the cloaked man suddenly said coldly. What? Xiao Zhan and the others were all stunned. They were a little confused. Isn't this senior black slave a friend of young Master Chen, protecting young Master Chen? Why does it sound like young Master Chen stole his things? Instead, he came to collect debts. Not only them, but even the people of the Liuxian sect were stunned, not understanding the situation inside. Just you. Qin Chen glanced at him. He. The cloaked man laughed. According to the rules of the continent, the Great Wei dynasty belongs to a superior force compared to the five nations. Without sufficient reason, it is not allowed to attack the five nations. The people they want to deal with are nothing more than you. Although this seat can't say that it can wipe out all these people, it is still no problem to protect you from these people. This deal is not a loss for you at all. The cloaked man's tone was calm, and his eyes were fiery. Although he could directly take action and capture Qin Chen, he was very clear that Qin Chen was not someone to be easily manipulated. Once the Azure Lotus demonic fire was exposed in the battle, it would be troublesome. Therefore, taking advantage of the fact that the Great Qi Kingdom is currently in crisis, he should try not to take action to get back the Azure Lotus demonic fire as much as possible. Once the Azure Lotus demonic fire is in hand, then things will be simple. At that time, he will leave directly. Who can stop him in the field? Not a loss at all. Do you think I'm stupid? Moreover, that thing was bought back by me at the auction. Why should I return it to you? Qin Chen sneered. How could he not understand the other party's wishful thinking? You. The cloaked man was stunned, and then smiled coldly. Okay, very good. The reason why this seat said this is just because I can't bear to see such a genius die here for no reason. Since you don't know what's good for you, then this seat will have to see how you can defy the heavens. Don't cry and beg this seat for help when you're about to die. The cloaked figure coldly snorted and immediately retreated to the side, a sneer on his lips, coldly watching Qin Chen, to see how he would survive under the covetous eyes of so many experts from Xuanzhu. Qin Chen, is there some kind of misunderstanding here? Seeing Qin Chen fall out with the cloaked figure, Xiao Zhan and the others were immediately dumbfounded. The situation was already so tense, and they had finally managed to get a master like Hainu to help, to oversee things, but they never expected that after a few words, the other party would actually wash their hands of the matter. Qin Chen, what exactly did you auction off? Xiao Zhan couldn't help but ask. Although he didn't know exactly what treasure Qin Chen had snatched from the cloaked figure's hands, at this time, having such a strong expert on their side would be an extremely powerful force for the many disciples of the Great Qi Kingdom. Lord Xiao Zhan, you don't need to worry. Don't worry, with me here, everyone will be fine, Qin Chen comforted. Before the will of the ancient southern capital left, it had already said that it would leave behind a power here to prevent these people from attacking him. At this moment, Qin Chen immediately closed his eyes and began to sense it. However, the entire world was empty, and nothing remained. At the location of the ghost immortal sect, Mo Li also closed his eyes to sense, but similarly, he couldn't sense anything. Impossible. Opening his eyes, Qin Chen revealed a look of doubt. Since the will of the ancient southern capital had said so, it was definitely impossible that there would be no arrangement. Perhaps the method was wrong. Qin Chen closed his eyes and began to sense again. Is Qin Chen cultivating? Or is he resting? This scene left Xiao Zhan and the others dumbfounded, each of them speechless. What kind of time was this? Qin Chen actually had the mood to cultivate. They only felt a mess in the wind, with 10,000 blood beasts galloping through their hearts. At this time, Tianwu, did you obtain a high-grade earth rank cultivation method inside? At the location of the remaining immortal sect, the leading elder of the remaining immortal sect carefully inquired of Hua Tianwu. Hua Tianwu immediately told the leading elder everything he had seen and heard in the inheritance hall. So, each of you obtained a spiritual seed that could strengthen yourselves, and then you underwent another assessment. You failed the assessment, so you were teleported out early, and then you obtained a high-grade Earth rank secret manual. Yes. Hua Tianwu nodded. The leading elder of the remaining immortal sect's eyes flashed. Since even you can obtain high-grade Earth rank secret manuals, then what kind of secret manuals would Qin Chen and Mo Li, who came out of the ancient southern capital last, obtain? Could it be heavenly rank? Thinking of this possibility, the leading elder of the remaining immortal sect's breathing instantly became rapid. In the Dawei dynasty, low-grade Earth rank cultivation methods were enough to run rampant in Xuanzu, while mid-grade Earth rank cultivation methods could only be possessed by forces like the Dawei dynasty's royal family. As for high-grade Earth rank, it had already exceeded the level of the Dawei dynasty. Not to mention heavenly rank secret manuals and cultivation methods. Heavenly rank cultivation methods are rumored to be the most powerful cultivation methods in this world. If Qin Chen really obtained a heavenly rank cultivation method, as long as it falls into the hands of my remaining immortal sect, then. Just thinking about it was shocking. With such a cultivation method, if the remaining immortal sect was given decades or even hundreds of years to develop, let alone leaving Xuanzu and becoming a first-class force in the Dawei dynasty, even overturning the Dawei dynasty's royal family and even entering a more terrifying world would not be impossible. This was the magical thing about heavenly rank cultivation methods. No. Those little brats from the 5 nations, this time, we must not let them leave safely. With a flash in his eyes, the leading elder of the remaining immortal sect had already made up his mind. With a sway of his figure, he led the many experts of the remaining immortal sect and instantly landed on the high platform where the great Qi kingdom was located. Qin Chen, you injured my remaining immortal sect's disciples and crippled their cultivation in the arena competition. Do you know your crime? At the same time, a booming sound of anger instantly echoed through the heavens and earth, resounding in everyone's minds. They've made their move. The experts from the remaining immortal sect have made their move. They're targeting that Qin Chen. HMPH. That Qin Chen is too high profile. He actually defeated all the geniuses of my Xuanzu and became the champion of this arena competition. Doesn't he understand the principle that a tree that stands out in the forest will be blown down by the wind? I'm afraid he thought that with a martial sect expert protecting him, he could do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, Elder Ge Xuan of the remaining immortal sect is not comparable to Vice Sect Master Chen of the Ti sect. With him taking action, even if the cloaked figure takes action, I'm afraid he won't be able to protect Qin Chen. Let's just wait and see a good show. Many experts from Xuanzu, after seeing Elder Ge Xuan of the remaining immortal sect make his move, all revealed sneers, and at the same time, they were excited and uneasy. What was exciting was that since the people from the 3 major forces had taken action, then the Qin Chen would definitely not have a good end. What was uneasy was that if the 3 major forces took a fancy to the treasures on Qin Chen and the others, then would there still be a share for their other forces? They had come here but had not obtained any benefits. Unlike the 3 major forces, whose disciples had already obtained inheritances, no one wanted to make a wasted trip. However, now that Ge Xuan had just come forward, everyone had not taken any action because of this. At the same time, the people from Emperor Heart City and Heavenly Balance Academy, seeing that Ge Xuan of the remaining immortal sect was the first to choose Qin Chen, also sneered, feeling that Ge Xuan had made a good deal by monopolizing the best things all at once. Everyone knew that among all the geniuses, Qin Chen and Mo Li were the most likely to obtain good things. Just that spiritual seed alone, Qin Chen had obtained a golden one that was above everyone else. Not to mention the other secret manuals. In terms of difficulty, the Ghost Immortal sect had a bunch of martial sects, while the Great Qi Kingdom only had 1 black-clothed man. Obviously, the remaining immortal sect wanted to occupy the best things at the fastest speed. However, the experts from Heavenly Balance Academy and Emperor Heart City did not move either. They also had their own plans. That cloaked figure had previously made a strange move, instantly severely injuring Vice Sect Master Chen Tianluo of the Ti sect. It was impossible for them not to be afraid, and they all wanted to let the remaining immortal sect go up and explore the path. Under such circumstances, for a time, everyone's eyes fell on the high platform where the Great Qi Kingdom was located, wanting to see how Qin Chen would answer. At this time, seeing the experts from the remaining immortal sect come, everyone in the Great Qi Kingdom instantly panicked. Qin Chen, what do we do now? Watching the approaching powerhouses from the Lixian sect, Xiao Zhan couldn't help but ask nervously, his voice even trembling. It wasn't that Xiao Zhan was afraid of death, but that those standing here weren't just him, but also many talented disciples from the Darky Kingdom, even the fourth Prince Zhao Wei and others. These people were all elites of the Darky Kingdom, the hope for the future. If they died here, Xiao Zhan would surely become a sinner of the Darky Kingdom, cursed by thousands. For a moment, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. He could only look towards Qin Chen. Even Xiao Zhan himself didn't realize that Qin Chen had unknowingly become the pillar and backbone of their hearts. Even he, the Spirit Martial King, would first ask for Qin Chen's opinion when encountering problems. What should be the crime? Qin Chen, who was originally sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes, his face showing no fear, but a cold smile. On the arena, everything depends on one's ability. If the disciples of your Lixian sect are not skilled enough, what else can be said? Could it be that the dignified three major forces of Xuanzu are of this virtue? Happy when winning, and demanding revenge when losing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Qin Chen's words made the faces of many disciples of the Lixian sect sink. Especially Hua Tiandu, his face was ugly. Although they looked down on Qin Chen very much, the fact that Qin Chen defeated him was an undeniable truth. This matter would even become a lifelong shame for Hua Tiandu. Boy, don't be too arrogant. No matter how eloquent you are, you can't change the fact that you injured my son Li Kunyun on the arena. You dared to cripple my son Li Kunyun. Today, if you don't give this old man an explanation, I will kill all the martial artists of your Darky Kingdom, leaving no one alive. Among the powerhouses of the Lixian sect, an old man roared and walked out. It was Li Kunyun's father, Li Shinfeng. His eyes were filled with anger, staring at Qin Chen, his whole body bursting with anger, and a strong murderous intent, like a vast ocean, pressed down on Qin Chen and the others. Before, with the will of the ancient southern capital, he couldn't attack Xiao Zhan and the others. Now that the ancient southern capital ruins had disappeared, he couldn't hold back any longer. The hatred in his heart couldn't be extinguished even if he poured out the water of 5 lakes. Kill all the martial artists of my Darky Kingdom. Does your Lixian sect want to violate the mainland regulations? Qin Chen's eyes turned cold, and he said in a deep voice. Ha ha ha. Mainland regulations. Li Shinfeng couldn't help but laugh, the laughter becoming colder and colder. Indeed, the mainland regulations stipulate that upper forces must not attack lower forces for no reason, but you crippled my son Li Kunyun on the arena. This is a personal grievance. If I destroy your Darky Kingdom, what can others say? Moreover, with just your small Darky Kingdom, who would stand up for you? Rely on this guy who hides his head and shows his tail, not even daring to show his true face. Li Shinfeng stared coldly at the cloaked man behind Qin Chen, and sneered. The cloaked man was mentioned, and couldn't help but be stunned, then sneered. Let me state first that I have nothing to do with this kid. If you want to deal with him, just go directly to him, don't drag me into it. You have nothing to do with this kid. Li Shinfeng sneered. Why, now you say you have nothing to do with him. When you took action just now, why didn't you say you had nothing to do with him? The people of the Lixian sect looked at the cloaked man with sneers. The other party said this, obviously afraid of them, and a sense of superiority arose spontaneously. The cloaked man was depressed. He didn't expect that these guys wouldn't believe him even if he severed his relationship with the Darky Kingdom. He couldn't help but say in a cold voice, I said I have nothing to do with him, then I have nothing to do with him. If you don't believe me, go ahead, But I warn you, don't provoke me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Li Shinfeng sneered, and was about to say something, but was stopped by Ji Yixuan beside him. Ji Yixuan stared coldly at the cloaked man and said, "Since you said you have nothing to do with this Darky Kingdom, why not leave here, so that we can believe you?" Regardless of whether this cloaked man had really fallen out with Qin Chen and the others, in Ji Yixuan's opinion, reducing one enemy was reducing one enemy. After all, this cloaked man's methods were too strange, and even he had to be careful. "Don't worry, I'll just watch from the side. If you want to attack them, just do it, I will definitely not interfere." The cloaked man said coldly, and at the same time sneered at Qin Chen. Let this Qin Chen not agree to his idea, let's see what he does now. As for leaving the high platform, that was absolutely impossible. Once the people of the Lixian sect captured Qin Chen, he had to take back the Azure Lotus demonic fire as soon as possible, and must not leave Qin Chen too far. Li Shinfeng said angrily, "HMPH, you say you will never take action on one hand, and you are unwilling to leave on the other hand, how can we believe you?" Below the high platform, the other Xuanzu powerhouses also nodded. What a joke! Not long ago, that cloaked man helped the Darky Kingdom deal with Vice Sect Master Chen of the Ti sect. Now he says he won't interfere, who would believe it? No idiot would believe it. At this moment, Qin Chen suddenly looked speechless, and said unhappily to the cloaked man, "Black slave, I told you a long time ago to stay away. They won't believe you acting like this. You just don't believe me. Now it's good, they don't believe you at all. How can you sneak attack the talented disciples of their Lixian sect later and kill all the disciples of their Lixian sect here? It's just nonsense." Qin Chen's words instantly detonated the audience, and many powerhouses in the Lixian sect all had their eyes narrowed. Good. This cloaked man actually had this idea, first pretending to break away from Qin Chen, but when they fight later, he will suddenly attack the talented disciples of their Lixian sect. With the strength that the cloaked man had shown before, I'm afraid that under a sudden attack, except for Hua Tiandu who might be able to resist one or two moves, other disciples such as Hua Fuwu and Li Kunyun would not be able to resist a single move and would be poisoned to death. What a vicious method. In an instant, Ji Yixuan, Li Shinfeng, and the others all broke out in cold sweats, feeling a chill all over their bodies, a burst of coldness. Fortunately, they hadn't rashly believed the other party before, nor had they rashly taken action. Otherwise, even if they could capture Qin Chen, the loss would be great if all the talented disciples under their command were killed. If Hua Tiandu died because of this, even if their achievements were great, it would be difficult to escape the punishment of the criminal hall when they returned to the sect. I think you are also a figure, but I didn't expect that you would use such despicable methods. Fortunately, we didn't fall for your trick. Li Shinfeng stared at the cloaked man, his eyes filled with anger. At the same time, the several experts of the Lixian sect also locked the cloaked man with their qi, fearing that he would suddenly take action and launch a poisonous attack. Seeing the other party's performance, the cloaked man was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He glared at Qin Chen viciously. This kid was simply too cunning, he actually slandered him like this, making him suffer in silence, unable to defend himself. In this way, no matter how he explained, the people of the Lixian sect would probably not believe him anymore. For a moment, he felt so depressed that he was about to vomit blood. HMPH. I said I wouldn't interfere, believe it or not. The cloaked figure snorted coldly, his eyes icy. Good. If you really don't interfere, my remaining immortal sect will keep to ourselves. Li Shinfeng, go up and capture that Qin Chen, and see if he makes a move. Elder Ge. Li Shinfeng turned back in astonishment. Don't worry, I'm here. Ji Yixuan's eyes were cold, and just standing there, he exuded an astonishing aura, firmly guarding the several disciples of the remaining immortal sect. At the same time, the remaining two elders of the remaining immortal sect who came with him also stood beside Hua Tiandu and the others, protecting the disciples of the remaining immortal sect. All right. Only then did Li Shinfeng feel relieved. He grinned and stared at Qin Chen, sneering, "Boy, when you injured my son Li Kunyun, you probably didn't expect this moment to come." As soon as the words fell, Whoosh! Li Shinfeng moved suddenly. His figure was like lightning, and in a flash, his palm grabbed towards Qin Chen, emitting a terrifying divine light. Qin Chen! Young Master Chen! Xiao Zhan and the others exclaimed instantly, their figures swaying, about to rush up. However, Li Shinfeng's gaze did not fall on these people at all, but stared at the cloaked figure. In his mind, among the many martial artists of the Great Qi Kingdom, only the cloaked figure could pose a threat to him. As for the others, they were not worth mentioning. At the same time, he was also prepared for the cloaked figure to make a move. But to his surprise, the cloaked figure really didn't intend to make a move, but stood aside with a sneer on his face, arms crossed, as if watching a good show. Excellent! Li Shinfeng was overjoyed. If the cloaked figure didn't make a move, he could completely capture Qin Chen directly. By then, even if the other party wanted to make a move, he probably wouldn't have a chance. Rumble! Immediately, a terrifying true energy burst out from Li Shinfeng's body, sweeping towards Xiao Zhan and the others. At the same time, the divine light on his outstretched right hand surged, shining brightly, like a devil's claw, wanting to completely grasp Qin Chen. Young Master Chen, Xiao Zhan and the others only felt a huge force coming, and they couldn't even stand still, letting out angry roars. All of you, step back! At this moment, Qin Chen suddenly shouted sharply, and a terrifying aura suddenly burst out from his body. With a bang, he shook Xiao Zhan and the others back, preventing them from being injured by Li Shinfeng. At the same time, the mysterious rust sword suddenly appeared in his right hand, and he stabbed fiercely towards Li Shinfeng. Swish! The black long sword turned into a stream of light, shuttling through the void, directly slashing on Li Shinfeng's shooting finger light. Petty tricks, young man, you are too naive. Do you think that by winning the first place in the arena, you can compete with this old man? Li Shinfeng sneered, ignoring Qin Chen's attack. His right hand condensed terrifying true energy, ignoring Qin Chen's attack, wanting to crush Qin Chen's sword light while capturing Qin Chen. But his expression changed as soon as he finished speaking. Poochie! In Qin Chen's sword light, an astonishing true energy aura suddenly erupted. Although the true energy was only at the peak of the 4th order Xuan rank, its power was much more terrifying than ordinary 5th order true energy. With a flash of the sword light, the finger light that burst out from Li Shinfeng's palm was cut in half, turning into energy and dissipating. At the same time, the sword energy, like a rotten tree, quickly swept towards Li Shinfeng's neck. What? Li Shinfeng was shocked. At the critical moment, he couldn't care about hiding his clumsiness. The true energy in his body was urged to the extreme. Boom! At the same time, an astonishing bloodline power rose from his body, and his speed suddenly increased in an instant, retreating sharply. Whoosh! The sword light swept across Li Shinfeng's body, directly cutting a gap in the protective true energy on his body surface. In the void, a piece of clothing fluttered in the wind and fell to the ground. Li Shinfeng was drenched in a cold sweat, feeling a chill, and was still in shock. How can this child's strength be so strong? And how did his cultivation break through to the late peak of the 4th order Xuan rank? Li Shinfeng was terrified. If he hadn't dodged quickly just now, he would have been cut in two by Qin Chen's sword. Not only him, but the other Xuanzu powerhouses present were also dumbfounded. What did they just see? Qin Chen flew Li Shinfeng away with one sword, and almost killed him. How is this possible? Although Li Shinfeng cannot be regarded as a top expert of the remaining immortal sect, he is also a 5th order early peak martial sect, a sect elder, and his cultivation is even no weaker than Chen Tianluo of the Ti sect. If he was blown away by the cloaked figure, it could be understood, but he was actually blown away by Qin Chen with one sword. This. Unbelievable. Li Shinfeng, what are you doing? At this time, why don't you use your full strength? You're a piece of trash. Ji Yixuan scolded angrily from the side. This Li Shinfeng was simply mindless, and was actually blown away by a teenager, a disgrace. Damn it, boy, you have angered me. Li Shinfeng's face was flushed with shame, and the anger on his face was about to drip blood. Losing such a big face in front of everyone, how could he not be annoyed? Divine Wind Claw, Phantom Invisible. Under the rage, The true power in his body was stimulated to the extreme. Li Shinfeng roared and rushed towards Qin Chen again. Buzz! His hands moved quickly, and in an instant, they seemed to disappear into the void. To the naked eye, there was no trace of claw shadows at all. Only invisible gusts of wind cut through the void, as if they could tear everything apart. Divine Wind Claw is the famous stunt of Elder Li Shinfeng of the remaining immortal sect. It is said that this move of his is a fusion of his own bloodline power and secret techniques. Its power is amazing. Even a piece of mysterious iron can be instantly crushed into powder. It's too fast. With our cultivation, we can't see any traces of claw shadows at all. How can we fight this? It's worthy of being the Divine Wind Claw. Below, a knowledgeable master exclaimed, with a look of horror. What felt even deeper was Xiao Zhan and the others. They were not within the attack range of the Divine Wind Claw, but the claw shadow gusts that shot out made him feel cold all over, with a terrible feeling of being completely pierced. Under the horrified gazes of everyone, countless gusts of wind swept down, instantly enveloping Qin Chen. Boy! Give me defeat! Li Shinfeng's eyes were ferocious, and he roared. The gusts of wind were like a vast ocean, pressing down and instantly came to Qin Chen. Phantom invisible. Hee. With this level, can it be called phantom invisible? Under the horrified gazes of everyone, Qin Chen had a sneer on his face, and the rust sword in his hand suddenly struck. Clang clang clang. In the void, there was an amazing sound of metal clashing, clanging, like big pearls and small pearls falling on a jade plate, clear and resounding in everyone's ears. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Qin Chen's right hand long sword transformed into a phantom, piercing into the void in front. Every time a sword fell, a claw shadow was blocked, without exception. What? It was actually blocked by him. He can block this. How did Qin Chen do it? My God! Everyone was stunned, dumbfounded, as if petrified. At that moment, everyone was terrified, unable to believe their eyes. What did they see? The esteemed elder Li Shinfeng of the Liuxian sect's famous skill, the Divine Wind Claw, was actually blocked by a teenager. Unbelievable. Li Shinfeng also widened his eyes, filled with shock and anger, and once again stimulated the true power within his body. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His eyes were ferocious, and the speed of his hands became faster and faster. Visible to the naked eye, countless streams of energy flickered in the void, so fast that people didn't have time to blink. But it was useless. The mysterious rusty sword in Qin Chen's hand seemed to have eyes, and with its movements, it blocked all of Li Shinfeng's divine wind claws. So this is your famous skill. Slow. Too slow. Qin Chen even had time to speak in his spare time. A cold smile hung on his lips, and with a rumble, a terrifying ray of lightning suddenly erupted from the mysterious rusty sword. The power of the lightning bloodline. Break. The sword light flashed. Qin Chen seized the gap, and with both hands gripping the sword, he slashed 3 times horizontally and vertically, the 9 sword lights forming a large net cutting forward. Poochie. The net was dense and covered all the gaps, with lightning surging within, annihilating everything, shattering all the claw shadows cast by Li Shinfeng, and sweeping out with unabated momentum. Li Shinfeng was shocked and his face was extremely ugly. He couldn't understand how Qin Chen could take his divine wind claw, it was simply terrifyingly strong. Break it for me. With an angry roar, Li Shinfeng suddenly attacked, divine light blooming on his hands, trying to intercept Qin Chen's sword light attack. I expected you to have this move, mental storm. From between Qin Chen's eyebrows, an invisible mental force burst out, turning into a vortex hurricane, penetrating the sword light, and instantly entering Li Shinfeng's mind. HMPH. A mental attack. A mere 4th order mental power, you want to confuse me. Li Shinfeng sneered. In his opinion, no matter how heaven-defying Qin Chen's mental power was, reaching the late peak of the 4th order was already the limit. And as a 5th order martial sect, he was not afraid of the 4th order mental power at all, the impact it brought to him was minimal. However, before the words could completely fall, the smile on Li Shinfeng's lips instantly froze. What? A powerful mental force that he couldn't resist at all came crashing down, instantly entering his sea of consciousness, and with a bang, it stirred up monstrous waves in his sea of consciousness. How can it be? 5th order mental power, you. Li Shinfeng was terrified, but it was too late to resist. His mind went blank, and the sword-light net had already slashed heavily on his body. Poochie. The sword-light extinguished, and the protective true power on Li Shinfeng's body shattered instantly without being urged. Blood spurted out from all parts of his body, and his whole person flew out in a disheveled manner, blood splattering across the sky. Elder Li Shinfeng. From the Lixian sect crowd, someone exclaimed, and suddenly, a figure soared into the sky, catching Li Shinfeng and landing on the ground. Looking down, they saw Li Shinfeng covered in blood, with 9 crisscrossing sword marks on his body. In many places, the wounds were so deep that bones could be seen, the flesh was blurred. With just this bit of cultivation, you want to capture me. Sheathing his sword and standing, Qin Chen looked disdainfully at the people of the Lixian sect, the contempt overflowing from his expression. At this moment, everyone was shocked, their hearts trembling. What did they see? The dignified elder of the Lixian sect was actually seriously injured by a 16-year-old teenager, almost killed. Many people rubbed their eyes desperately, simply unable to believe everything they saw. Strong. Too strong. How could Qin Chen be so strong? Even Elder Li Shinfeng of the Lixian sect has been defeated by him, below the peak of the early 5th Order martial sect. Who else would be his opponent? This is too unbelievable. Waves of exclamations rose and fell, causing many Xuanzu powerhouses who originally had greedy intentions towards the Darky Kingdom to feel terrified. In the Dixon City, the top powerhouse known as Uncle Quan's eyes narrowed, and he slowly said, as expected of the champion of the arena competition, he indeed has some skills. It's no injustice for Hua Tiandu to lose to him. Dai Tianyi also mocked. Uncle Quan, Li Shinfeng was careless. Did he think he was invincible just because he was a 5th Order martial sect? Facing that Qin Chen, he didn't even use his full strength in the first place, he dared to be careless. The elder of the Lixian sect is nothing more than this. In fact, not only Dai Tianyi and the others, but also many experts, after careful consideration, saw the clues. Li Shinfeng is also courting death himself. That Qin Chen defeated Mai Xuanzu's pride and won the first place in the arena competition. Although he is young, his strength is extraordinary. Leaving aside other things, Mai Xuanzu's 3 peerless geniuses were already able to defeat ordinary early 5th Order martial sects a year ago, but they still lost to that Qin Chen. It can be seen that Qin Chen's strength was already no weaker than Mai Xuanzu's ordinary early 5th Order martial artists during the arena competition. And now, this person's cultivation has broken through from the mid-term peak of the profound level in the arena competition to the late-term peak of the profound level, and he has also obtained the inheritance of the ancient Nandu. His strength must have improved by leaps and bounds again. Li Shinfeng being so careless and defeated, although unexpected, is actually reasonable. That's right, and Li Shinfeng was already injured by the will of the ancient Nandu before. How dare he still be careless at this time? Isn't he looking for death? He was careless. Otherwise, with Li Shinfeng's strength, he wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. The crowd sighed, and gradually understood. What a waste. Behind the Darky Kingdom, the cloaked man was also depressed. He had been waiting for Qin Chen to be defeated and ask him for help, so that he could take the Azure Lotus demonic fire back, but he didn't expect the people of the Lixian sect to be so unbearable. Not only did they fail to force Qin Chen to ask for help, but instead they were beaten into serious injuries, making people speechless. However, the cloaked man's heart was even more terrified. He remembered that in Wucheng, Qin Chen had to be careful when facing Xuan-level late-stage martial artists from forces such as the Zhu family of Wucheng. But how long has it been since then? His cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds, and he is not even afraid of the martial sect elders of the Lixian sect. This kind of progress made him terrified. No, this child must be eliminated, otherwise, it won't be long before even I can't control him. The cloaked man's eyes were cold, and a trace of killing intent flashed quietly in the depths of his eyes, making people shudder. Under the treatment of the Lixian sect experts, Li Shinfeng quickly woke up, opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, and angrily said as soon as he woke up, "Boy, you dare to sneak attack." Sneak attack. Qin Chen sneered. To deal with you, do I still need to sneak attack? Your son is a waste. As expected, the old man is not very good either. If I were you, I wouldn't have the face to stay here. I would just run into a wall and die. You. Li Shinfeng trembled with anger, his anger soaring, but he couldn't say a word for a long time. Enough. Ji Yixuan shouted angrily, looking at Li Shinfeng unhappily. Why did he bring this guy out? He was really embarrassing the sect. Then he looked coldly at Qin Chen. Boy. No wonder you have such a strong foundation, but, do you think you are invincible with just this bit of strength? Boom. As soon as the words fell, an astonishing aura suddenly erupted from Ji Yixuan's body. That aura was thick and solid, like a mountain, heavily suppressing the crowd of the Darky Kingdom in front of him. At that moment, Xiao Zhan and the others all felt a jolt through their bodies. The true energy within them circulated with difficulty, and even their breathing became rapid. It was as if what stood before them was not a martial artist at all, but a towering mountain, an insurmountable peak. PFFT. 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 Almost instantly, many of the great Qi Kingdom's geniuses were injured by this aura. Very few were able to withstand it without injury. Only Xiao Zhan, Wang Qiming, Zhao Lingshan, Zixun, and other geniuses who had achieved good results managed to do so. And their cultivation levels were all at the mid-stage of the profound realm or above. Even so, under such a terrifying aura, Xiao Zhan and the others still wore expressions of shock, their hearts filled with surging blood, making it almost impossible to endure. HMPH, as a dignified top elder of the flowing immortal sect, is your only skill bullying the weak? Is this all the so-called top sect of Xuanzu is capable of? Qin Chen's expression immediately turned extremely unsightly. At the same time, an invisible aura emanated from his body, enveloping Xiao Zhan and the others, isolating at least half of the aura released by Ji Yixuan. Only then did Xiao Zhan and the others breathe a sigh of relief, their faces turning from pale to rosy. However, their expressions still betrayed their fear. Too strong. At this moment, their hearts were filled with deep helplessness, and they gritted their teeth in resentment at their own weakness. Ji Yixuan hadn't even made a move. Just his aura alone had made it almost impossible for them to resist. The disparity in strength was too great. No wonder the experts of Xuanzu didn't take the people of their 5 nations seriously. It wasn't arrogance, but they truly had the ability to back it up. Oh, what a peculiar aura. It can actually withstand this old man's aura attack. No wonder you're so rampant. Seeing Qin Chen remain unmoved under his aura storm, and even release an aura to help Xiao Zhan and the others resist, Ji Yixuan couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. This Qin Chen before him was indeed extraordinary. Likewise, your cultivation has actually reached the late stage of the 5th rank. No wonder you're a top elder of the flowing immortal sect. Qin Chen sneered. He didn't show any emotion on the surface, but his heart sank abruptly. Previously, although Ji Yixuan had also displayed an extraordinary aura, Qin Chen was only at the initial stage of the profound realm, so he hadn't been able to see Ji Yixuan's true cultivation level. Now that he had broken through to the peak of the late stage of the profound realm, and Ji Yixuan had completely revealed his own cultivation, Qin Chen finally understood the other party's true strength, which turned out to be a martial ancestor in the late stage of the 5th rank. A martial ancestor in the late stage of the 5th rank. Although he had expected Ji Yixuan's cultivation to be strong, Qin Chen hadn't expected the other party to be this powerful. If the other party was only a martial ancestor at the peak of the mid-stage of the 5th rank, Qin Chen was confident that he could contend with the other party by relying on his own full strength, plus the unexposed illusion imprisonment cage, Azure Lotus Demon Fire, and other ultimate moves. However, after learning that Ji Yixuan was a martial ancestor in the late stage of the 5th rank, Qin Chen completely abandoned this idea. He was too clear about the strength of the martial ancestor realm. With his current cultivation, he could contend with a martial ancestor in the mid-stage of the 5th rank, but once he encountered a martial ancestor in the late stage of the 5th rank, it would be impossible for him to be a match. What's more, Xiao Zhan and the others were standing behind him. If he couldn't win, he could still escape, but if Xiao Zhan and the others were left behind, they would definitely die. For a moment, Qin Chen couldn't help but feel a little anxious. He wasn't afraid of Ji Yixuan, but he couldn't help but worry about the safety of Xiao Zhan and the others. Now that you know my cultivation, aren't you going to kneel down and admit your mistake? If you can submit to my flowing immortal sect, perhaps I can agree to spare your lives. Ji Yixuan sneered. He didn't directly attack, but instead used his aura to constantly pressure Qin Chen. There were two main reasons why he didn't attack. The first was that he didn't believe that the hooded man would really stand idly by. If the hooded man really thought so, he wouldn't have come out of the crowd earlier and injured Chen Tianlu, let alone say he wouldn't interfere while insisting on staying on the high platform. His words and actions were clearly inconsistent. Although Ji Yixuan was very confident, the hooded man's previous methods still gave him some apprehension. What's more, this wasn't a place where his flowing immortal sect could sweep everything away. There were also experts from the Imperial Heart City and Heavenly Balance Academy present. The second was that his goal was to obtain the inheritance of the ancient southern capital from Qin Chen. Killing him would only be a momentary pleasure, but it wouldn't allow him to extract the techniques from Qin Chen's body. Therefore, his current goal was to constantly suppress Qin Chen with his aura, trying to psychologically break him down, so that Qin Chen would kneel before him and obediently hand over everything he had obtained from the ancient southern capital. Submit to your flowing immortal sect. What a joke. On what basis? Qin Chen sneered, while constantly sensing the aura of the surrounding world. Right now, he placed his only hope on the residual power that the will of the ancient southern capital had mentioned. Since the will of the ancient southern capital had said that it had left behind a power in the location of this ruin, then it must have left it behind. However, what puzzled Qin Chen was that no matter how he sensed, he couldn't detect it. The will of the ancient southern capital couldn't be lying. The only possibility is that I haven't found the method myself. While pondering, Qin Chen looked towards Mo Li of the Blood Demon sect. Mo Li had also reached the final step in the inheritance, and had heard what the will of the ancient southern capital had said. He must also be looking for this power, and might have made some discoveries. However, the result disappointed Qin Chen. He could feel that Mo Li was indeed looking for this power, but judging from his expression, he probably hadn't found it either. Could it be? Suddenly, Qin Chen seemed to have thought of something. He immediately circulated the techniques he had obtained from the inheritance of the ancient southern capital, and immediately felt an astonishing power surrounding the entire world. Found it. So that's how it is. You must circulate the techniques obtained from the ancient southern capital to sense this power. Let me see. To control this power, you must use the secret rune techniques mastered in the ancient southern capital. Qin Chen gently activated the secret runes. With a hum, the air throughout the entire world flowed involuntarily. Qin Chen clearly felt that the space within the ancient southern capital and within a 10-mile radius was enveloped by this power. As long as he had a thought, he could control it at will. Moreover, Qin Chen could feel that the terror of this power far exceeded that of a martial ancestor. It was at least above the 6th rank martial venerable. Dealing with the powerhouses of the Great Wei dynasty present would be effortless. Ha ha ha. With this power, what is there to fear from these martial ancestors present? At this moment, Qin Chen's heart was completely at ease. He secretly formed secret runes and began to control the astonishing power hidden in the world. On the opposite side, Ji Yixuan didn't know that Qin Chen was no longer afraid of him at all. He raised his head and said arrogantly, "On what basis? Just because my flowing immortal sect is the top force in Xuanzu. With a single word, we can destroy your 5 nations. A single sentence can cause my 5 nations to be destroyed." Qin Chen's eyes narrowed, a cold glint flashing in the depths. At this moment, he felt no worry at all, and sneered, "It certainly sounds tempting, but if I submit to your remaining immortal sect, what will happen to the other disciples of my great Qi nation?" Seeing that Qin Chen seemed somewhat moved, Ji Yixuan immediately guaranteed, "Rest assured, as long as you join my remaining immortal sect, the other disciples of your great Qi nation will naturally be protected by us. I can guarantee that no one here will dare to touch a single hair on your heads." Ji Yixuan said with certainty, but in his heart, he sneered, "This kid is really naive. Does he really think our great Qi nation will nurture them? Once we obtain the inheritance of the ancient southern capital, these so-called geniuses of the great Qi nation will all have to die. Of course, he only kept these words in his heart, while on the surface, he said enthusiastically, "So, how have you considered it? As long as you follow us, your future will be limitless." It really makes it hard to refuse. Qin Chen smiled noncommittally, as if seriously considering Ji Yixuan's suggestion. Ji Yixuan seized the opportunity and said, "What are you still hesitating about? Joining my remaining immortal sect is much better than staying in the 5 nations. Moreover, if you don't join my remaining immortal sect today, everyone here will covet the things you possess. You might not even see the sun tomorrow." This Ji Yixuan really had a good plan. At this moment, all the other Xuanzhou martial artists below stirred. They hadn't expected that Ji Yixuan would actually invite Qin Chen to join the remaining immortal sect. What surprised them even more was that Qin Chen was actually somewhat tempted. If that were the case, where would they have the opportunity to obtain the inheritance of the ancient southern capital from Qin Chen? Had they known this would happen, they wouldn't have needed the remaining immortal sect to take action, they would have gone up themselves long ago. Although their strength couldn't compare to Ji Yixuan's, there were still quite a few mid-stage martial lords of the 5th rank. Dealing with Qin Chen would be no problem at all. They were filled with regret. Ji Yixuan looked at Qin Chen with a smile, and said with a smile, "So, how have you considered it? If he could subdue Qin Chen without having to fight and obtain the treasures on his body, that would naturally be the best. It seems quite tempting." Qin Chen smiled. "However, asking me to submit to such a trash sect like yours, I think I'll pass." Qin Chen shook his head. "Look, the geniuses you cultivate with the strength of your entire sect are all so useless and not my match. If I were to join your remaining immortal sect, I'm afraid my entire life would be ruined, so I'll pass." PFFT. Hearing this, the entire audience was stunned, and everyone almost vomited blood. What did Qin Chen mean? Was he playing with the remaining immortal sect? Everyone felt their brains spinning, almost fainting. "You made a wise decision, WH, what?" Ji Yixuan was smiling, thinking that Qin Chen had compromised. He only realized what had happened halfway through his sentence, and was instantly so angry that blood rushed to his head. "You little brat, you're courting death." The cold shout immediately echoed in the heavens and earth like a thunderclap. At this time, if Ji Yixuan still hadn't realized that Qin Chen was playing with him, then he wouldn't need to bother continuing to live. Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from his body. The others in the arena were also completely stunned, speechless. Arrogant, too arrogant. At this time, Qin Chen actually dared to speak to the remaining immortal sect like that. He was simply courting death. Even the people of the 5 nations shook their heads in shock, all feeling that Qin Chen was courting death. "Good kid. If I don't capture you today, I swear I won't be human." Ji Yixuan trembled with anger, divine light blooming in his eyes. With a loud bang, his figure was as fast as lightning, and he attacked Qin Chen fiercely. In an instant, the entire high platform was filled with whistling wind. The true energy storm that swept up made it almost impossible for people to open their eyes. As for Xiao Zhan and the others, they couldn't even get close, and retreated one by one, their faces pale. Everyone was speechless. This Qin Chen was simply too good at courting death. "Boy, it's still not too late for you to agree to my request. Otherwise, once you're caught by the people of the remaining immortal sect, it might be difficult for me to help you." In the storm, Qin Chen heard the voice of the cloaked man, who obviously still wanted to persuade Qin Chen to agree to his conditions. Qin Chen ignored the cloaked man's words and mocked, "You think too much. This Ji Yixuan can't capture me." The cloaked man shook his head. This kid was really stubborn. Then let him continue to suffer. When he couldn't hold on any longer, he didn't believe that he wouldn't compromise. Before the thought in his mind could fall, he saw a scene that he would never forget in his life. He saw Qin Chen facing Ji Yixuan's attack without moving at all. Only at the instant when the attack arrived, he lightly raised his hand, and immediately, astonishing rays of light fell in the void, wrapping around Ji Yixuan like lightning. What is this? Ji Yixuan naturally wouldn't be as careless as Li Shinfeng. Knowing the principle that a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit, he immediately attacked to resist at the first instant when the rainbow light fell. However, the rainbow light completely ignored his attack and instantly wrapped around his entire body, instantly wrapping him into a dumpling. Ji Yixuan was shocked. What was this? The true energy and bloodline power in his body frantically circulated, trying to break through the shackles of the rainbow light. However, no matter how he struggled, it was useless. This rainbow light was unbreakable, firmly binding him in the center. Ha ha! As expected of the power left behind by the ancient southern capital, so strong. Seeing that the power of the rainbow light easily bound Ji Yixuan, Qin Chen was overjoyed and immediately walked forward, suddenly raising his hand. Slap! Only a shadow of a palm flashed, and Ji Yixuan, the leader of the remaining immortal sect, was slapped hard, and his entire body was instantly slapped away. In an instant, his left cheek swelled up, like a steamed bun. Elder Ge, are you all right? The remaining two elders of the remaining immortal sect were stunned, completely unaware of what had happened. You little brat, I'm going to kill you. Ji Yixuan was so angry that his hair stood on end. He roared and leaped up, pouncing on Qin Chen again. His whole body was filled with energy, like a madman. The terrifying true energy was like a vast ocean, annihilating everything, causing everyone to change color in horror and be shocked. But Qin Chen waved his hand, and another rainbow light descended, immediately binding Ji Yixuan again. Then, he slapped him left and right, and the sound of slaps kept ringing. Qin Chen didn't know how many times he slapped Ji Yixuan in an instant, until both sides of his face were swollen high, purple-black, almost dripping with blood. Kill me. I'll see how you kill me. Qin Chen's eyes shot out a cold light, and the strength in his hands increased even more, causing Ji Yixuan to roar like a pig being slaughtered. Finally, he kicked Ji Yixuan hard in the chest, kicking Ji Yixuan hard and flying out, falling into the crowd of the remaining immortal sect. Elder Ge, what's wrong with you? At this time, the many experts of the remaining immortal sect finally reacted, and there was a sudden chaos, a complete uproar. Everyone else was stunned, their mouths agape. What were they seeing? The dignified elder Ji Yixuan of the Lixian sect was actually being beaten by this Qin Chen. Was this a ghost sighting? Quick, pinch me to see if I'm dreaming. Ouch. My God, that hurts. Why are you using so much force? Didn't you tell me to pinch you? Hiss. But I didn't tell you to use so much force. It hurts so much. It's not a dream. A group of Xuanzu powerhouses were completely dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes, almost going crazy. This was the leading elder of the Lixian sect, a late-stage 5th-level martial lord, one of the strongest people present, yet he was being beaten by a late-stage peak Xuan-level teenager, his entire face swelling up half a foot high. Just thinking about it was painful. Many people were speechless. Elder Ji Yixuan had completely lost face. He was slapped hard by a teenager, and in front of so many Xuanzu powerhouses. Where would he put his old face in the future? Sorcery. This kid is using sorcery. Ji Yixuan snarled, his teeth bared, trembling in pain. His eyes, filled with resentment, stared at Qin Chen, roaring like a madman. Qin Chen didn't explain, but coldly looked at the many Xuanzu powerhouses present, sneering, "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? You just want to snatch the inheritance I obtained from the ancient southern capital ruins." The ancient southern capital ruins were originally the secret realm of my 5 nations. Now that you Xuanzu geniuses are given the opportunity to participate, not only are you unappreciative, but you even want to attack the geniuses of our 5 nations. Do you really think our 5 nations are easy to bully? Qin Chen's eyes coldly stared ahead, shooting out a terrifying light. Now I'll give you a chance. Anyone who wants to snatch the secret techniques from me, come on up. I'd like to see just how shameless you Xuanzu people can be, and how many are as despicable as this Lixian sect. The entire place was silent. All the Xuanzu powerhouses looked at each other, none daring to make a move. The hooded man's forehead also broke out in a cold sweat. It was truly a ghost sighting. Ji Yixuan was actually powerless in front of this kid. Among the crowd, only Mo Li understood the reason, knowing that Qin Chen must have mastered the power mentioned by the ancient southern capital's will. What frustrated him was that although he also knew that this power existed, he couldn't sense it at all, while Qin Chen not only sensed it but could also control it as he wished, making him feel utterly defeated. Ji Yixuan roared, "Boy, if I don't kill you today, I'm not Ji Yixuan." Still spouting nonsense. Qin Chen's eyes turned cold. Swish. His figure flickered, instantly appearing in front of Ji Yixuan. "What do you want to do?" The two martial lords of the Liuxian sect's expressions changed drastically, and they hurriedly stepped forward to try to intercept him, but with a wave of Qin Chen's hand, the two of them were immediately unable to move, and were slapped away by Qin Chen. Immediately afterward, Qin Chen came to Ji Yixuan's face, and with both hands, he started beating him again. Ji Yixuan's face, which had just been treated with medicine and was improving, immediately swelled up again, turning into a pig's head, roaring in anger, but powerless. "Stop!" Hua Tiandu, who had been watching from the side, could no longer bear it and rushed towards Qin Chen. Qin Chen waved his hand, but a faint light flashed across Hua Tiandu's body. The ancient southern capital's power did not bind Hua Tiandu, as if it had lost its effect. Qin Chen was slightly stunned. It's the power of the spiritual seed. Could it be that the power left behind by the ancient southern capitals will prevent me from using it to harm geniuses who have obtained inheritance? Oh, it's useless against me. I understand now. The power you control should be the power left behind by the ancient southern capital ruins. No wonder it's so powerful. Hua Tiandu was extremely intelligent and quickly understood the reason, sneering, "I thought your power was invincible. So it has limitations. Die." Hua Tiandu roared, and an astonishing aura erupted from his body. Boom! The power representing a fifth-level martial lord instantly burst out. In the ancient southern capital inheritance, although Hua Tiandu did not reach the final step, he also gained many benefits in the second level of absorbing strange true essence. His cultivation improved again. At this moment, although Hua Tiandu was not yet a martial lord, he was actually no different from a martial lord. The true essence in his body had already begun to transform from fourth-level true essence to fifth level. It could be said that compared to the beginning of the arena competition, Hua Tiandu's strength had more than doubled, and his confidence greatly increased, wanting to fight Qin Chen again. Buzz! Dense palm shadows filled the void, endlessly attacking Qin Chen. Why is Hua Tiandu's aura so much stronger? Could it be that he gained another improvement during the inheritance? Too strong. If it were me, even 10 of me wouldn't be able to block Hua Tiandu's palm. The crowd was shocked. Although Hua Tiandu had previously lost to Qin Chen, everyone could clearly see from his aura that after the ancient southern capital inheritance, Hua Tiandu's cultivation had improved again, obviously making a breakthrough. "Boy, I'll let you know that temporary victory or defeat doesn't mean anything. I, Hua Tiandu, am the true genius, the peerless king." A thunderous roar resounded through the heavens and earth. Hua Tiandu was like a demon god, high above, unleashing his strongest attack on Qin Chen. Qin Chen was speechless. No wonder this guy couldn't become a top powerhouse. His brain wasn't working well. He had made a breakthrough, but didn't he also make a breakthrough in the inheritance? Illusion imprisonment cage. Too lazy to entangle with Hua Tiandu any longer, Qin Chen directly used the second move of the myriad god technique, illusion imprisonment cage. In an instant, Qin Chen's pupils rotated like a deep pool, and a cold, eerie spiritual fluctuation flashed in the void. In the next moment, Hua Tiandu only felt a chill all over his body, his entire being placed in a pitch-black space. His body was imprisoned by countless cold iron chains, his entire being spread out in a large character shape, unable to break free at all. "What is this place? Let me go! Let me go!" Hua Tiandu roared in horror, cold sweat pouring down his body. Sharp electric whips lashed out at him fiercely on the spiritual level, causing him unbearable pain and suffering a terrible blow. No. Outside, everyone only saw Qin Chen glance at Hua Tiandu, and Hua Tiandu's entire being became sluggish, his face in pain, his body convulsing in agony. On the spiritual level, Hua Tiandu suffered a long period of inhumane torture, but on the physical level, it was only a moment. Thump! Hua Tiandu fell to the ground, covered in cold sweat, no longer able to muster any fighting spirit, like a walking corpse, his eyes filled with horror. Hiss. Gasps of cold air came from the crowd. Everyone stared blankly at the scene before them, their hearts shaken. Hua Tiandu, the dignified son of the Liuxian sect, one of the three great geniuses of Xuanzu, was defeated by just a glance from Qin Chen, his combat power completely lost, as if it were a myth. With one foot planted on Hua Tiandu's body, Qin Chen coldly surveyed everyone from the Liuxian sect, as well as the numerous Xuanzu experts present, and said coldly, "Who else? Who else is not convinced? Come on up." That arrogant posture and domineering words shook everyone's hearts. For a time, the arena was silent, and no one dared to step forward. Although many people from Xuanzu were extremely dissatisfied with Qin Chen's attitude, even Elder Ji Xuan of the Liuxian sect was no match for Qin Chen, so who else would dare to step forward now? The result of going up would definitely be the same as Elder Ji Xuan of the Liuxian sect, making a fool of themselves in front of everyone and becoming a laughingstock. On the other hand, the experts from Emperor Heart City and Tianheng Academy looked at Qin Chen coldly, saying, "This kid is really arrogant." However, they only said this, and did not take any action. Because they were all too clear that their strength was only on par with the Liuxian sect. If the people from the Liuxian sect were in such a miserable state after going up, what would be the result if they went up? They dared not predict. After all, who knew what means of restraint the will of the ancient southern capital had left for this kid? If they tried to steal a chicken but lost the rice, it would be too embarrassing. In such an atmosphere, everyone in the arena looked at each other, and the atmosphere instantly became extremely strange. Seeing that no one dared to come up, Qin Chen sneered and said in a low voice to Xiao Zhan and the others, "Lord Xiao Zhan, this place is not suitable for a long stay, you should leave first." At the same time, he shouted loudly, "Disciples of the Five Nations, everyone can leave." Hearing Qin Chen's words, there was an immediate commotion in the arena. No one from the Five Nations had expected such an ending. Qin Chen, with his own strength, had shocked the many experts of the Great Wei dynasty. Originally, they were all uneasy, even thinking about begging for mercy in order to get the people of the Great Wei dynasty to let them go. They never thought that in an instant, the situation would take a turn for the better, and the people of Xuanzu did not even dare to move them. Thinking that such a thing was done by a genius from the Great Qi state alone, everyone from the Five Nations was convinced. Qin Chen's ability to become the champion of the ancient southern capital assessment was indeed not obtained out of thin air. Such a genius indeed had this ability. What a pity, such a genius was not a disciple of their own forces. The many experts from the Five Nations sighed endlessly, feeling extremely regretful in their hearts. However, regret was regret, but now that there was such a good opportunity to leave, why not hurry up and leave instead of staying to seek death? Therefore, a large group of experts and geniuses from the Five Nations hurriedly adjusted their moods and were about to leave this land of inheritance. And the most anxious were the few forces that had obtained the inheritance, such as the Lingtian sect and the Great Liang state. They were very clear that the people of the Great Wei dynasty could not possibly kill people indiscriminately, but they definitely did not want to let go of Yu Changxiu and Yuan Feng, who had obtained the inheritance. "Let's go, we'll leave here." Having understood this, Wei Tianming immediately led the people of the Great Liang state, as well as Yuan Feng, down the high platform and walked outside. Sect Master Yu Wuzhen of the Lingtian sect also gave a low shout to Yu Changxiu, and was about to lead the disciples of the Lingtian sect away. "No, father, I'm not leaving." Who knew that Yu Changxiu would actually be unwilling to leave? "Changxiu, what nonsense are you talking about?" Yu Wuzhen was anxious in his heart, not understanding what was wrong with Yu Changxiu. With such a good opportunity, if they didn't leave, once Qin Chen could no longer control those experts of the Great Wei dynasty, they would not be able to escape. "Father, I want to stay. If Qin Chen doesn't leave, I won't leave either," Yu Changxiu said coldly. Qin Chen. Yu Wuzhen glanced at Qin Chen and was about to go crazy. What was Changxiu doing? It had to be admitted that Yu Wuzhen also greatly admired Qin Chen, believing him to be a promising talent. If it were in the past, he would definitely not mind Yu Changxiu having some connection with a genius like Qin Chen. But in the current situation, Yu Wuzhen was all too clear that although Qin Chen had temporarily restrained the people of the Liuxian sect, it did not mean that he could continue to restrain them. Yes. Qin Chen was able to control some of the power left by the ancient southern capital to deal with the people of the Great Wei dynasty, and even beat Ji Yixuan into serious injuries. However, the reason why the Liuxian sect and these forces could become the top forces in Xuanzu was not only because of Ji Yixuan alone, but because of an entire huge sect. Thinking of this, Yu Huajin couldn't help but sigh and said, Changxiu, I know you greatly admire that Qin Chen, but you must recognize the situation. Although Qin Chen has temporarily restrained Ji Yixuan and the others, I dare to guarantee that once he loses his trump card, these experts of the Great Wei dynasty will definitely not let him go, especially the Liuxian sect. 2 genius disciples have almost been crippled by this Qin Chen, and even an elder has been seriously injured. Even Ji Yixuan has been beaten like this. Do you think the Liuxian sect will let him go? Yu Huajin shook his head. Qin Chen is strong, but the foundation of the Liuxian sect is much deeper than our 5 nations. You have also seen that Qin Chen has the ability to kill the elders of the Liuxian sect, but he did not do so because he dared not. He is afraid of the Liuxian sect retaliating against him. What is the use of you staying here for such a person? Yu Huajin thought that after analyzing it like this, Yu Changxiu would be able to change her mind, but he did not expect that after listening to his words, Yu Changxiu's gaze would become even more firm, shaking her head and saying, No, father, I'm not leaving. Yu Huajin was about to go crazy. His daughter had always been extremely obedient. What was going on today? Just when Yu Huajin did not know what to do, Yu Changxiu turned her head and said to him, Father, you don't understand. I'm not leaving not only because of Qin Chen, but also for you and our Lingtian sect. What do you mean? Yu Huajin was puzzled. Yu Changxiu staying here was completely dragging their Lingtian sect into the water. How was it for the Lingtian sect? Seeming to know the doubts in Yu Huajin's heart, Yu Changxiu said lightly, Father, you should also know that the reason why the people of the Great Wei dynasty are dealing with Qin Chen is to vent their anger, but the real purpose is still for the inheritance that Qin Chen has obtained, right? Yu Huajin nodded. He naturally understood this principle. If it were not for the treasures, would so many people be staring at Qin Chen like hungry wolves, desperately trying to get them? Then you should understand that, in fact, besides Qin Chen, I, as well as Wang Qiming, Yuan Feng, and Mo Li, are also the targets of these experts of the Great Wei dynasty. Yu Huajin thought to himself that it was good that you knew. If it were not because you had obtained a good ranking and obtained the inheritance, I would be so anxious to leave, just because I was afraid that the people of the Great Wei dynasty would launch an attack on my Lingtian sect later, and I would not be able to stop them. That's right, so I can't leave even more. Seeming to know what Yu Huajin was thinking in his heart, Yu Changxiu said. Yu Huajin completely did not understand. What did it mean that you were the target, so you could not leave even more? You should leave even more. Staying here would definitely lead to death. Yu Changxiu said, Father, think about it. Qin Chen let us leave, but these people from the Great Wei dynasty didn't make any moves at all. They even let us leave. Don't you find it strange? You said that even if the Liuxian sect is currently restrained by Qin Chen, they are not afraid of him at all. Then why don't they care about us at all and let us leave? Not a single word. And it's not just the Liuxian sect, but even the other forces in Xuanzu, no one said half a word. Yu Changxiu's words filled Yu Huajin's heart with doubt. Indeed, the people from the 5 nations left too smoothly. He originally thought that Yuan Feng and the others would definitely encounter some obstacles when they left, but he didn't expect that there would be no obstacles at all. This was too abnormal. Yu Changxiu sneered, that's because the experts from the Great Wei dynasty don't care about us leaving at all. Speaking of this, she sighed, Father, think about it, where can we go? We can only return to our respective countries and sects. These Xuanzu experts have temporarily let us go, but they can directly come to the Lingtian sect later. Father, what will you do then? Yu Huajin was speechless. He had thought about the situation Yu Changxiu mentioned. So Changxiu, after you return to the sect, leave the 5 nations immediately. Even if someone comes looking for you then, they will be helpless. Really helpless. Yu Changxiu shook her head and looked at Yu Huajin, obviously feeling that Yu Huajin's idea was too naive. Father, If these Xuanzu martial artists were so easy to talk to, things wouldn't have become like this. I guarantee that the reason they let us leave is just because they don't want others to know that they obtained the secret manual in front of so many people. Once we leave, they will immediately intercept us and demand the secret manual. By then, we will all be scattered, and no one will witness it. They can kill us at will without worrying about being exposed. Yu Huajian's heart sank. What Yu Changsu said was not without reason. As for you, father, letting me leave, indeed, if I leave quietly, I may be able to avoid these people's search, but where can I go? If these people can't get the secret manual from you, father, they will definitely not let it go. I can leave, but what about you, father? What about my sister? What about our entire Lingtian sect? Where can we go? Yu Huajian was silent, speechless. Letting him move the entire Lingtian sect because of this, not to mention whether he was willing or not, even if he was willing, where could so many people move to? So, father, me staying is actually the best solution, Yu Changsu said. But what's the use of you staying? Even if you hand over the secret manual, with these people's ruthlessness, they definitely won't let you go. You will still die then. To abandon your daughter's life for the sake of yourself and the sect's future, Changsu, how can I face your mother after I die? Yu Huajian said sadly. Watching his own child fall into danger, but being unable to do anything, this feeling was too uncomfortable. Yu Changsu smiled faintly. Father, who said I will definitely die? Yu Huajian looked up in astonishment. Yu Changsu looked at Qin Chen, a smile appearing on the corner of her mouth. Father, you were wrong just now. I understand Qin Chen, and I know his character. You said before that he didn't kill Ji Yixuan and the others because he didn't dare to kill the people of the Lixian sect, but that's not the case. It's not that he doesn't dare, but that he's unwilling. I guess he's also considering the Great Qi Kingdom, so he didn't kill the people of the Lixian sect. And I believe that he will definitely have a way to resolve this crisis. Yu Huajian looked at Qin Chen suspiciously, wondering why Yu Changsu had so much confidence in this young man. These were the experts of the entire Xuanzu. Even if Qin Chen was a genius, what could he do? While Yu Huajian was anxious, Xiao Zhan and the others were unwilling to leave no matter what. Qin Chen, we're not leaving. If we leave, what will happen to you alone? Xiao Zhan said nervously. Yes, Qin Chen, let's leave together. Zhao Lingshan and the others also had extremely determined expressions. You don't have to worry about me. I will naturally have a way then. Xiao Zhan shook his head and said firmly, Qin Chen, what can you do? I know that you want us to leave first and use yourself to hold back these Xuanzu experts, but I, Xiao Zhan, am not someone who is greedy for life and afraid of death. If we leave, these people will be even more unscrupulous. We will stay and accompany you. Looking at Xiao Zhan and the others who were unwilling to leave, Qin Chen was moved, but also very helpless. You believe me, you staying will only bring me trouble, and Wang Qiming, Qin Chen's voice suddenly sounded in Wang Qiming's mind, you return to the Great Qi Kingdom and immediately go find Xiao Ya of the Pill Pavilion, or Dongfang King of the Bloodline Sacred Ground. Only they can protect you. Young Master Chen. Wang Qiming was moved. Even at this time, young Master Chen was still considering his safety. The people of the Lixian sect all looked at this scene coldly. Ji Yixuan's injuries had also recovered somewhat. Looking at the many disciples of the Great Qi Kingdom, a sneer hung on the corner of his mouth. These guys were still reluctant to leave, but where could they run to? They could run away from the monk, but they couldn't run away from the temple. They offended his Lixian sect. Did they think they could escape so easily? They were too naive. In fact, the other experts of the Great Wei dynasty all had the same thoughts in their hearts. Each of them remained silent, but a cold smile hung on their faces, their eyes like those of an eagle. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Just when the scene was once again silent, suddenly several sounds of breaking through the air came, and several figures suddenly swept over from outside the ancient southern capital. These people all had extremely extraordinary auras, especially the two leading ones. Their true energy was condensed and did not dissipate, and they were actually also martial sect level experts. Behind the two, there were also several people following. Among them, Two were actually Pavilion Master Xiao Ya of the Great Qi Kingdom's Pill Pavilion, and President Dongfang King of the Great Qi Kingdom's Bloodline Sacred Ground. However, at this moment, they were all standing behind, following two old men with extraordinary auras. In addition, the other experts besides Xiao Ya and Dongfang King were also wearing the alchemist robes of the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Master robes of the Bloodline Sacred Ground, obviously all with quite high status. At the same time that Qin Chen saw Xiao Ya and Dongfang King, the two also saw Qin Chen. Seeing that Qin Chen was fine, the two couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Moreover, behind these people, Wei Tianming and Yuan Feng, who had left earlier, had actually returned. Why are the people from the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground here? Upon seeing the newcomers, the brows of the many experts in Xuanzu all furrowed, and their expressions became somewhat unsightly. The expressions of the several black-clothed people from the Ghost Immortal sect also became unsightly. Everyone, experts of the Great Wei dynasty, this place is the land of the Five Nations. It doesn't seem like a place for you to run wild, does it? As soon as the two leading old men arrived, they coldly shouted at the many experts of the Great Wei dynasty, their eyes sharp and their expressions displeased. Lord Xiao Ya, President Dongfang King, Xiao Zhan and the others were wide-mouthed, looking surprised, not understanding how Xiao Ya and Dongfang King came to be here. Moreover, who were those two old men? They actually reprimanded the powerhouses of the De Wei dynasty right away, how impressive. Although they didn't understand why Xiao Ya and the others had rushed over, after seeing this group of people, Xiao Zhan and the others' expressions all became extremely excited, understanding that they were saved. Even though Xiao Ya and Dongfang King's strength was only on par with his, and only at the half-step martial sect realm. However, one was the Pavilion Master of the Pill Pavilion in Darky, and the other was the President of the Bloodline Sacred Ground in Darky. The Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground were the two top forces on the continent, and their identities were even more terrifying than his, the Spirit Martial King of Darky. Perhaps they could make the people of the De Wei dynasty a little apprehensive. Who are you people? You came up and reprimanded the warriors of our De Wei dynasty. It's not your turn to interfere in the matters here, is it? Many powerhouses from various forces in Xuanzu said with displeased expressions. This old man is Xiang Tianwen, a Bloodline Sacred Ground executive of the De Wei dynasty, specifically responsible for the affairs of the Five Nations. This is Mu Lengfeng, an executive of the Pill Pavilion, also responsible for the affairs of the Five Nations in the De Wei dynasty Pill Pavilion. How can we not interfere? The slightly fatter old man coldly stared at the Xuanzu crowd, his eyes revealing a cold light, and said, this old man heard that during this Five Nations Grand Competition, powerhouses from the De Wei dynasty intervened, so I came to take a look. According to the joint regulations signed by the major forces of the continent, powerhouses from upper forces cannot arbitrarily break the rules and use force to interfere in the internal affairs of lower forces. You are powerhouses of the De Wei dynasty, yet you are forcing the disciples of the Five Nations. Aren't you going too far? Hearing this, the disciples of the Five Nations were all extremely excited. So these two people were the executives of the De Wei dynasty Pill Pavilion and Bloodline Sacred Ground, specifically responsible for the affairs of the Five Nations. With them here, the powerhouses of the De Wei dynasty probably wouldn't be able to run wild at will, right? The disciples of the Five Nations were excited, but the faces of the many powerhouses in Xuanzu were not so good. The Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground were the top forces on the continent. Although the two of them were only small executives in the Pill Pavilion and Bloodline Sacred Ground of the De Wei dynasty, they were not people that ordinary people could move. Let alone their forces in Xuanzu, even the royal family of the De Wei dynasty would probably not dare to act presumptuously when they saw people from the Pill Pavilion and Bloodline Sacred Ground. Also, my Bloodline Sacred Ground and the Pill Pavilion once had talks with the higher-ups of your Blood Demon sect. The Blood Demon sect is not allowed to invade the land of the Five Nations by force. What? Could it be that the promises your Blood Demon sect made before are not going to be kept? After reprimanding the De Wei dynasty, Xiang Tianwen then looked at the few people from the Ghost Immortal sect and said coldly. What? These guys are from the Blood Demon sect. The many powerhouses in Xuanzu were all startled and looked at the Ghost Immortal sect where Mo Li was. They had naturally heard of the Blood Demon sect. It was a very evil sect 1,000 years ago, with extremely terrifying strength and cruel methods. It once tried to control the entire Northwest, and more than a dozen dynasties once fell into their control. In the end, the Northwest Dynasty Alliance at the time joined forces to eliminate it because of fear, and only then did it disappear. Unexpectedly, after 1,000 years, this Blood Demon sect had actually made a comeback and reappeared in the Northwest continent. If this were to spread, the entire Northwest Dynasty Alliance would probably be shaken. No wonder the geniuses they cultivated were so terrifying, even the peerless geniuses of their Xuanzu were no match. Hee. The things our Blood Demon sect promised will naturally not be broken. This time, we are only representing the Ghost Immortal sect to participate in the Five Nations Grand Competition. As for the rest, we haven't done anything. We are just watching the show, so it shouldn't be considered a violation of the previous agreement, right? The leading old man of the Blood Demon sect said gloomily. The current Blood Demon sect was different from what it was 1,000 years ago. It had just recovered and naturally did not dare to challenge the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground. It seems that this time, we won't be able to get a share of that kid. Looking at Qin Chen with a gloomy gaze, the few black-clothed men of the Blood Demon sect were quite unhappy. However, in this Five Nations Grand Competition, Mo Li of their Blood Demon sect won second place in the Grand Competition and went to the end of the inheritance with Qin Chen. For the Blood Demon sect, it was already a big profit. It's good that you didn't do anything. I advise you not to play any tricks. Xiang Tianwen snorted coldly, then looked at the crowd of the Dewei dynasty and said, then what about you? The Xuanzu crowd looked at me and I looked at you, but no one spoke. In the end, the leader of Tianheng Academy came out, cupped his hands with a smile and said, so it's Grandmaster Xiang Tianwen of the Bloodline Sacred Ground and Grandmaster Mu Lengfeng of the Pill Pavilion. I've heard of you for a long time. The powerhouse of Tianheng Academy smiled and said, the two of you may have misunderstood. Although the various forces of our Xuanzu also participated in the Five Nations Grand Competition by chance, we still care very much about the continental regulations and have not made any violations. If there really was any conflict, it would only be a personal grievance and would not represent a conflict between our two forces. Please rest assured, two Grandmasters. As for saying that we are oppressing the disciples of the Five Nations, that's even more nonsense. The two Grandmasters can take a look at the appearance of our Lixian sect in Xuanzu. It's not us bullying the people of the Five Nations at all, it's clearly the people of the Five Nations bullying us. The Five Nations are bullying you, what a joke. Xiang Tianwen snorted coldly. Did he take him for an idiot? As an executive of the Bloodline Sacred Ground of the Dewei dynasty, he knew the strength comparison between Xuanzu and the Five Nations very well. Any top-ranked sect in Xuanzu could easily kill the strongest person in the Five Nations. If it was said that the people of the Five Nations dared to attack the disciples of Xuanzu, it was simply a fantasy. While snorting coldly, he also turned his gaze to the high platform of the Darky Nation pointed to by the powerhouse of Tianheng Academy. With this look, Xiang Tianwen and Mu Lengfeng were both stunned. On the high platform, a disciple of the Five Nations was stepping on the body of a disciple of the Lixian sect with his feet. The appearance of the Lixian sect disciple was as miserable as it could be. Moreover, the disciple being stepped on was also a little familiar, and seemed to be the sect master of the Lixian sect, Hua Tiandu, one of the three peerless geniuses of Xuanzu. What exactly was going on? The two of them were almost in a mess in the wind. Were they seeing things? They had only just received the news from the Five Nations and rushed over in a hurry, fearing that the powerhouses of Xuanzu would attack the disciples of the Five Nations. Who knew that what they saw when they rushed over was such a scene? Executive Xiang Tianwen, this is Qin Chen that I told you about before. Dongfang King Lian said in Xiang Tianwen's ear. He is Qin Chen. Mu Lengfeng was stunned and also looked at Xiao Ya on the side. Yes. Senior brother Lengfeng, this is Qin Chen that I told you about. Xiao Ya's expression was also very strange, completely not understanding what had just happened. As for the people from the Lixian sect, their expressions were even more unsightly, wishing they could find a crack in the ground to burrow into. What exactly is going on? Xiang Wenshan frowned and questioned Qin Chen on the high platform, while also exchanging a glance with Mu Lengfeng. Both of them had actually received messages from Xiao Ya and Dongfang King, which was why they had rushed over anxiously from the Dewei dynasty. They had both heard of Qin Chen. Especially Xiao Ya, who had broken through to become a Tier 4 alchemist not long after taking office as the Pavilion Master in the Darky Kingdom, where the 5 nations were located, which shocked Mu Lengfeng and Xiao Ya's master. Xiao Ya had said that the reason her alchemy skills had improved so rapidly was because of Qin Chen's guidance. Mu Lengfeng had wanted to meet him for a while, which was why he had come so actively. Otherwise, as an executive of the Dan Pavilion headquarters in the Dewei dynasty, how could he have been so active in handling this matter? I am Qin Chen, greetings to the 2 masters. Qin Chen kicked Hua Tiandu away and smiled as he cupped his hands at the 2 of them, secretly relieved that the people from the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground had finally arrived. In fact, these 2 were really called by Qin Chen. Back in Tianwu City, after Qin Chen heard that forces from the Dewei dynasty were coming, he immediately became vigilant and sent messages to Xiao Ya and Dongfang King, who were far away in the Darky Kingdom, asking them to contact higher-level figures from the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground. Because Qin Chen knew too well the mentality of those upper forces, if they gained enough benefits, it would be fine, but if there was anything unsatisfactory, conflicts would definitely arise. The fact was also true. The reason Qin Chen was delaying time was to wait for the people from the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground to arrive, and they did arrive in time. With the weight off his mind, Qin Chen said with a smile, "The truth is, it's nothing. It's just that the people from the Lixian sect insisted on making trouble for my Darky Kingdom and even wanted to attack my Darky Kingdom's disciples. I had no choice but to spar with them. Who would have thought that the people from the Lixian sect are only famous in name and are actually vulnerable, which is a joke to the 2 of you. Joke. Joke your head." Elder Ge Xuan of the Lixian sect almost vomited blood. Now it was his Lixian sect who was losing face. What was Qin Chen joking about? He couldn't help but angrily say, "Qin Chen, you only used some despicable means, what's there to be proud of?" A cold light flashed in Qin Chen's eyes, and he smiled coldly, saying, "So, are you admitting that you attacked my Darky Kingdom's disciples just now?" Ge Xuan's expression changed, and he hurriedly scolded, "Nonsense." Then he said to Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng, "You two, Ge Xuan, respect your character and the forces behind you, so I guarantee that I will never violate the mainland regulations and recklessly attack the 5 nations. However, the grievances between Qin Chen and my Lixian sect are only personal grievances. This person crippled my Lixian sect's disciple in the arena competition before, and my Lixian sect will never rest until he is dead. Please don't interfere in the matters between us, otherwise, even if we complain to the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground headquarters in the Dewei dynasty, my Lixian sect is not afraid." As soon as Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng appeared, Ge Xuan knew that it was almost impossible to deal with the people from the 5 nations again. However, it was also impossible for him to let Qin Chen go. Therefore, he directly gave up attacking the other disciples of the 5 nations and focused on the grievances between him and Qin Chen, which were the personal grievances between their Lixian sect and Qin Chen. And personal grievances, even if the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground managed them widely, they couldn't manage this at all. Xiao Ya's expression changed, and she coldly snorted, "What kind of skill is it for a dignified top sect in Xuanzu to deal with a weakling?" Weakling. He's not a weakling. Ge Xuan's expression was gloomy. This person's methods are cruel, directly crippling my Lixian sect's genius Li Kunyun, and even severely injuring my Lixian sect's elder Li Shinfeng, and even humiliating this old man and my Lixian sect's sect master Hua Tiandu. Moreover, this person is also the champion of this 5 nations grand competition, defeating the geniuses of my Xuanzu and the holy son of the blood demon sect, and also obtained the inheritance of the ancient ruins of Gunan capital. If such a guy is considered a weakling, then who else in the field can be considered a strong person? What? Qin Chen won the championship of the 5 nations grand competition. The eyes of Xiang Wenshan and the others almost fell to the ground. They didn't hear wrong, did they? This time, The Five Nations Grand Competition not only had the geniuses of the Five Nations, but also many experts from the Dewey dynasty, but the final champion was actually this 16-year-old youth from the Five Nations in front of them. What a joke! However, after seeing the depressed expressions on the faces of the Xuanzu martial artists around them, as well as the expressions of the other experts from the Five Nations, they immediately understood that what Ji Yixuan said was true. Ji Yixuan said angrily, "You two, do you still think such a guy is a weakling? So this is the grievance between our Liuxian sect and this Qin Chen, and I hope the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground will not interfere." This. Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng were stunned. Executive Xiang Wenshan, senior brother, Dongfang King and Xiao Ya hurriedly looked over. They were not unaware of the strength of the Liuxian sect, which was one of the top 3 forces in Xuanzu. If the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground did not interfere, even if Qin Chen had used some means before to temporarily restrain the people from the Liuxian sect, once the other experts from the Liuxian sect arrived, Qin Chen would definitely die. Impossible. Seeing Xiao Ya's anxious appearance, Mu Lengfeng directly snorted coldly at Ji Yixuan. "This child is an alchemist from our Dan Pavilion. No matter what personal grievances your Liuxian sect has with him, how can our Dan Pavilion stand idly by and not interfere? That's right. This child is also a bloodline master from our Bloodline Sacred Ground, and our Bloodline Sacred Ground naturally cannot stand idly by." Xiang Wenshan also snorted coldly. They had come this time to see Qin Chen, so naturally they could not let Qin Chen be killed by the people from the Liuxian sect. Everyone in the field looked at Qin Chen in surprise. This guy was actually an alchemist from the Dan Pavilion and a bloodline master from the Bloodline Sacred Ground. Was this true? Seeing the solemn expressions of Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng, everyone understood that this was very likely true. In front of so many people, even if Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng wanted to save Qin Chen, it was impossible for them to tell this lie, which was related to the reputation of the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground. For a time, everyone felt that their brains were not enough. From the beginning of the Five Nations Grand Competition, Qin Chen had continuously shocked them, so that now, everyone was a little numb. I'm afraid that even if someone said that Qin Chen was a prince of a certain dynasty, they would believe it. Ji Yixuan's expression changed even more. Thinking of the mental power talent that Qin Chen had shown during the battle before, he knew that what Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng said should be true, and directly snorted coldly. So what if Qin Chen is a member of the Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground? The so-called prince breaks the law and is guilty like the common people. This child injured my Liuxian sect's disciples before. The Dan Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground can't interfere in our personal grievances, right? If that's the case, can anyone from your Dan Pavilion and Bloodline Sacred Ground act recklessly and arrogantly outside? Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng's expressions darkened. They didn't expect that even after they had said so much, the people from the Liuxian sect still refused to let it go. However, the two of them couldn't forcefully intervene. Although the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground were powerful forces that spanned the entire continent, they also had many regulations when establishing branches in various parts of the continent. One of these regulations was that they should not interfere in conflicts between major forces. If they were to forcefully intervene, and the matter were to reach headquarters, not only would their reputation be tarnished, but they might also be punished by the Law Enforcement Hall. Elder Ji Yixuan is right. This is a personal matter. I think the two of you should not interfere. Otherwise, it might not sound good for your reputation if word gets out. At this time, the leading powerhouse of Tianwu Academy also stepped forward and said with a smile, clearly not afraid of making things worse. Even if Qin Chen is an alchemist and a bloodline master, this is a personal matter and should not involve the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground. This isn't a competition between two alchemists or bloodline masters, but a personal feud between Qin Chen and the Liuxian sect. If the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground insist on interfering, it would be a bit much. Seeing the people from Tianwu Academy speak up, many powerhouses from various forces in Xuanzu also began to discuss among themselves. Many of them had gained nothing from this trip. Seeing that there were benefits to be plundered, but being stopped by Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng, they naturally felt a bellyful of anger and couldn't wait for the two sides to clash. That Qin Chen even had someone use poison to sever one of my arms. If I don't avenge this, how can my Ti sect gain a foothold in Xuanzu in the future? Does it mean that in the future, as long as someone is a member of the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground, I have to obediently retreat and offer my neck for them to cut? Chen Tianluo of the Ti sect, having lost an arm, had an even more explosive temper. He snorted loudly, making Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng's expressions even more unsightly. So many people from Xuanzu were attacking him, making Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng feel troubled and their faces turn ashen. Their purpose for this trip was Qin Chen, and they naturally couldn't allow anything to happen to him. However, now that so many Xuanzu powerhouses had spoken, if they were to forcefully intervene, they were afraid that it would cause trouble for the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground, leaving them in a dilemma and unable to advance or retreat. The two of you don't need to be troubled. I am already grateful for your appearance today. You only need to arrange for the other disciples from our 5 nations to be safe. As for Qin, since the people of Xuanzu say that this is a personal feud with me, it's better for the two of you not to interfere, lest some people gossip and cause trouble for you. At this moment, Qin Chen suddenly walked out, cupped his hands to the two of them, and said with a respectful attitude. Qin Chen. Xiao Ya hurriedly shouted anxiously, constantly winking at Qin Chen, her heart filled with anxiety. The others were also dumbfounded. Was this kid out of his mind? He actually took the initiative to say that he didn't want the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground to interfere. Wasn't this courting death? At this time, everyone also understood that Qin Chen's methods of restraining Ji Yixuan and the others earlier should have been left behind from the ancient southern capital. However, the ancient southern capital ruins had already disappeared, and the remaining power would definitely not last long. Once this power disappeared, Qin Chen would be like a fish on a chopping board, completely at their mercy. Ji Yixuan laughed even more excitedly and said to Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng, the two of you have also heard. Now that Qin Chen has admitted that this is just a feud between us, the two of you probably have no reason to interfere, right? Alas! Qin Chen, what are you doing? Mu Lengfeng and Xiang Wenshan were speechless and shook their heads repeatedly. Originally, they were thinking of a way to take Qin Chen away, but now that Qin Chen had said this, it was equivalent to directly blocking their retreat. Where would they have any reason to interfere in this matter? Fellow Taoist, don't be happy too early. You said earlier that the feud between your Lixian sect and me is just a personal feud. Can you represent the Lixian sect? Qin Chen sneered at Ji Yixuan. This old man is an elder of the Lixian sect and the leader of this trip. Naturally, I can make the decision. Boy, I know what you mean. Don't worry, the only one this old man wants to deal with now is you. As for the other disciples from your 5 nations, this old man has no interest in them, Ji Yixuan sneered. How could he not be clear that Qin Chen was trying to protect the others from the great Qi nation? How foolish. At this time, he was still considering others. Hey, as long as he obtained the secrets and treasures on him, as for the things that others had obtained in the ancient southern capital, his Lixian sect could not give up. Moreover, Ji Yixuan had already determined that Qin Chen would not dare to kill the people of their Lixian sect. He was only relying on a trace of power left behind by the ancient southern capital to act like a tiger, but once this power disappeared, what other methods would this kid have? Ignoring Ji Yixuan, Qin Chen looked at the other Xuanzu powerhouses below and said, everyone has said that this is a personal feud between us. Do you all admit it or not? Don't worry, if it's said to be a personal feud, then it's a personal feud. It won't involve the other people from the 5 nations. Boy, although the person who injured me before was a cloaked man, he was acting on your orders. Therefore, the feud between my Ti sect and you is only against you. One by one, the forces didn't understand what Qin Chen was doing and all sneered. They had to say this, after all, there were people from the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Ground at the side. If they dared to bully the other forces and disciples of the 5 nations, these 2 major forces would immediately have a reason to intervene. At this time, they naturally couldn't give the other party any reason. Good. Qin Chen nodded, revealing a trace of a smile, and then took out an image crystal from his body and sneered, everyone, your previous actions have all been recorded in this image crystal by me. Two seniors. If any force in the Dewey dynasty dares to deal with the people of my 5 nations in the future, please uphold justice. With a wave of his hand, the image crystal was immediately sent to Mu Lengfeng and Xiang Wenshen's hands by Qin Chen. This cunning kid. The people of Xuanzu were all stunned. They didn't expect that Qin Chen had actually stored all their words and deeds in the image crystal. Then they would have no chance to go back on their word in the future. One by one, they were furious, but when they thought that Qin Chen had dug a pit for himself and admitted that it was a personal feud, everyone became excited again. Compared to the other disciples of the 5 nations, they knew that the treasures Qin Chen had obtained from the ancient southern capital were the most amazing. As long as they obtained the things on Qin Chen's body, even if they couldn't get the things on the others' bodies, it wouldn't be a pity. The people of Xuanzu were excited, but the people of the 5 nations were all touched in their hearts and were extremely moved. Father, is this the Qin Chen you said wouldn't dare to kill the people of the Lixian sect? For the sake of our 5 nations, this person is willing to put himself in the midst of the whirlpool. Would such a person be the kind of person you said earlier? Yu Changsu sighed to Yu Huajun, her tone filled with deep worry. Yu Huajun was silent. He had to admit that Qin Chen's current actions were something he had never expected. Young Master Chen, Wang Qiming and the others were also teary-eyed and speechless. At this moment, all the disciples of the 5 nations were shaken. Looking at Qin Chen in front of them, he was clearly just a young man, but that figure was so tall and stalwart that they looked up to him. All right. Now that everyone admits it's a personal grudge, I'll say this. Besides the Lixian sect, anyone else who believes they have a personal grudge with me, step forward now. I, this young master, want to see who exactly is determined to make trouble for me, Qin. Qin Chen's eyes turned cold as he glared at the Xuanzu crowd. Huh, what is this guy doing? Is he crazy? Everyone was stunned. They understood Qin Chen's actions less and less. He's asking people with personal grudges to step forward. Does he plan to deal with them? Hey, just thinking about it, everyone sneered. I am Chen Tianluo of the Ti sect. Your subordinate severed one of my arms. If your excellency doesn't give me an explanation today, my Ti sect will never rest until one of us is dead. Chen Tianluo was the first to step forward, a sneer on his face. Beside him, several disciples of the Ti sect surged forward, also with sneers on their faces. I am Zhou Luo, an elder of Qianying Valley. You previously insulted my Xuanzu. Qianying Valley is a Xuanzu sect, and I am a Xuanzu person. How can I allow you to slander us like this? Today, I will also act on behalf of Xuanzu and seek justice from you. Elder Zhou Luo of Qianying Valley also stepped forward with a sneer. Previously, he had focused on Yu Wenfeng. But now, with the arrival of experts from the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Land, they can no longer attack the Dalian Kingdom without reason. They can only focus on Qin Chen, hoping to get a share of the pie. I am an elder of the Shanhei sect. Disciples of the Darky Kingdom, where you are from, previously injured my Shanhei sect disciple Zhou Zun. Today, I will also seek justice for my Shanhei sect. In an instant, several people from different forces stepped forward, smiles of disdain on their lips, their eyes burning with desire. These people had all sorts of reasons. Some claimed Qin Chen had defeated the disciples, some claimed Qin Chen had insulted Xuanzu, and some even claimed to be defending Xuanzu's reputation. The reasons were ridiculous. But everyone's goal was the same, to make trouble for Qin Chen. Good. So, these are all the people with personal grudges against me. Is there anyone else left? Qin Chen looked at these people, expressionless, and then continued to scan the various forces in Xuanzu. Chen Tianluo and the others couldn't help but sneer. Did this guy think these forces weren't enough? Did he want other Xuanzu forces to join in? What? Did he want to kill them all? Hey, did this kid dare? They didn't believe Qin Chen would dare to attack them. Yes, Qin Chen now controlled some of the power of the ancient southern capital and could restrain them, but they were only a part of their respective forces. For example, Chen Tianluo was only the deputy sect master of the Ti sect. Above him, there was at least one other deputy sect master, as well as a sect master and many elders. If Qin Chen dared to touch him, when the news spread back to Xuanzu, Qin Chen would face the wrath of the entire Ti sect. At that time, he would surely die. Therefore, they were all confident and unafraid. They were certain Qin Chen wouldn't dare to attack. However, some Xuanzu forces hesitated and didn't step forward. They weren't worried about Qin Chen attacking, but about the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Land. Indeed, the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Land couldn't interfere for now, but if they really came forward, once they were resented by the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Land, their future days would be difficult. For a time, they hesitated, their hearts conflicted. Young Master. In the location of Dixon City, Uncle Quan, the old servant of Dixon City, looked at Dai Tianyi, also inquiring about Dai Tianyi's intentions. Uncle Quan, let's not rush for now. Let's watch the show first, Dai Tianyi said with a smile, a glint of light flashing in his eyes. That Qin Chen is very cunning. From the Five Nations tournament until now, have you ever seen this kid suffer a loss? Although his actions are strange, I believe this person is definitely not reckless. There must be a reason for him to do this. We just need to watch and then act accordingly. Dai Tianyi didn't move, and after a moment of hesitation, the people from Tianheng Academy also remained still. The leading elder of the Blood Demon sect flickered his gaze, but slowly walked out. Xiang Wenshan and Mu Lengfeng's eyes immediately turned cold. The old man smiled slightly, ignored the gazes, looked at Qin Chen, and said, Your Excellency, our Blood Demon sect is not seeking revenge against you. It's still the same words that Mo Li said to you on the arena. We are very optimistic about your future. Now that you have offended so many forces, and the Pill Pavilion and the Bloodline Sacred Land can't interfere, as long as you agree to join our Blood Demon sect, we will bear the grudges of these forces for you. How about it? As soon as these words came out, all the Xuanzu forces were shocked and looked at the black-clothed old man. The Blood Demon sect was really ruthless, actually wanting to bear all the grudges for Qin Chen. What a big appetite. However, they were also extremely uneasy in their hearts. The Blood Demon sect's reputation was too great and incomparably terrifying. If Qin Chen really agreed to join the Blood Demon sect, would they really have to fight the Blood Demon sect? Just thinking about it made him a little afraid. Faced with everyone's gazes, the black-clothed old man didn't show any strangeness on his face, just looked at Qin Chen with a smile. Xiao Zhan and the others looked at Qin Chen with complicated expressions. To be honest, from the depths of their hearts, they were extremely unwilling for Qin Chen to join the Blood Demon sect. However, considering the current situation, they hoped that Qin Chen could join the Blood Demon sect. At least with the strength of the Blood Demon sect, they could temporarily protect Qin Chen and prevent him from being chased by so many forces. Sorry, Qin, am used to traveling alone and don't want to join any forces. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Chen directly refused. Wanting him to join the Blood Demon sect, they should save their effort. The black-clothed old man's eyes flashed, and he laughed. Since that's the case, then I won't say anything more. I hope you can take care of yourself and not regret it later. Watching the black-clothed old man return to the Blood Demon sect's side, the Liuxian sect and the Ti sect and other forces secretly breathed a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Qin Chen would join the Blood Demon sect. It seems that no other forces are going to come out. Since that's the case, the remaining forces should have no grudges with me, Qin Chen nodded after seeing that no one continued to come out. The various forces were stunned, somewhat regretting it. But the words had already been spoken, so it was naturally difficult to go back on their word. They could only think about whether there would be an opportunity later to get a share of the pie. Qin Chen ignored these people's thoughts, and then looked at Ji Yixuan and the others, cupping his hands and saying, Everyone, you all have grudges with me, Qin. No matter what grudges you have with me, since the feud has already been formed, then naturally it must be resolved. I, Qin Chen, have always believed that when you're out in the world, it's always better to have one more friend than one more enemy. As the saying goes, the world is like a horse, whether it's wind or rain. I, Qin, am here to state that I hope you can turn hostility into friendship with me, Qin, and wipe out the previous grudges. From now on, everyone will be friends. How about it? Friends. Ha ha. Ji Yixuan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Boy, I thought you were going to say something. If it's about this, My Luxian sect can't afford a friend like you. Don't say my Luxian sect is heartless. If you want to resolve this conflict, it's not impossible. Today, in front of everyone, as long as you cripple your cultivation and kneel down to apologize, my Luxian sect can let bygones be bygones. Ji Yixuan's face revealed a mocking smile. Do you dare? Elder Ji is right. If you want to resolve the conflict, it's not impossible. Cripple your cultivation, kneel down and apologize, and we can consider it. My Shanhei sect also feels the same. Humph. Unless you hand over the things you obtained from the ancient southern capital, my Ti sect is not unwilling to reconcile. Zhou Luo, Chen Tianluo, and the others all sneered. So, there's no room for discussion. Qin Chen said in a deep voice. Discuss. You, a mere kid, what qualifications do you have to discuss with us? Giving you such an opportunity is already considered our benevolence. If you yourself are unwilling, who can you blame? Chen Tianluo pointed at Qin Chen with his remaining left hand, saying arrogantly. In his heart, he sneered even more. This Qin Chen had his right hand crippled, and he still wants to reconcile with him. He's dreaming. If Chen Tianluo doesn't tear this kid into pieces, he, Chen Tianluo, will no longer be named Chen. Okay. Since there's no room for discussion, then there's no need to discuss it. As soon as the words fell, Qin Chen's always calm expression suddenly changed. A trace of sharp light flashed from the depths of his eyes. Swish! Qin Chen's figure swayed, and he had already disappeared from his original spot. The next moment, he directly appeared in front of Chen Tianluo. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out. The mysterious rusty sword in Qin Chen's hand had already been unsheathed at some point. Swish! The sword light flashed, directly slashing down at Chen Tianluo's pointing left hand. Boy! What do you want to do? Chen Tianluo's expression changed drastically. Boom! The true energy in his body was activated to the extreme in an instant. His cultivation as a peak early stage 5th order martial sect instantly revealed itself without reservation. An astonishing aura, like a mountain, pressed down fiercely towards Qin Chen. However, Qin Chen merely raised his hand, and an invisible force descended, instantly binding Chen Tianluo in place. Boy! How dare you! Chen Tianluo roared in shock and anger, struggling desperately, but it was useless. He could only watch helplessly as the sword light suddenly fell. Poochie! Blood blossomed, and Chen Tianluo's left hand was split in two, with blood spurting out like a fountain from the severed arm. Ah! The intense pain immediately caused Chen Tianluo to howl like a pig being slaughtered. His face was contorted, his features twisted, and he stared fixedly at Qin Chen, roaring angrily. Boy, you dare to hurt me. You're dead. Do you know that? You're dead. My Ti sect will not let you go. Both arms severed. For a martial artist, what a painful and desperate thing this was. Chen Tianluo's heart was ashen, his eyes blood red, and he roared in anger. Everyone in the distance was stunned. Qin Chen actually so decisively chopped off Chen Tianluo's left hand. Wasn't he afraid of the Ti sect's revenge? Amidst the shock, they saw an even more shocking scene. Won't let me go. Did you think I would let you go today? The cold voice echoed. After Qin Chen cut off Chen Tianluo's left hand with a sword, there was no expression on his face. His right hand raised, the sword light flashed again, and directly stabbed towards Chen Tianluo's throat. Chen Tianluo's eyeballs suddenly widened, the anger and resentment on his face disappeared in an instant, and his eyes became incomparably horrified, panicking. Stop, let's talk nicely. If you kill me, the Ti sect will not let you go. Everything can be negotiated, stop it quickly. He didn't expect that Qin Chen would actually dare to kill him. In an instant, he was frightened out of his wits. Was this guy crazy? Didn't he want to live anymore? He wanted to beg for mercy in horror, but it was useless. Facing Chen Tianluo's pleas for mercy, Qin Chen was expressionless, and the hand holding the sword didn't even tremble. Poochie! The mysterious rusty sword directly pierced through Chen Tianluo's throat, like killing a chicken, bringing up a spray of blood. Chen Tianluo stared at Qin Chen with wide eyes, looking at Qin Chen in shock and anger, and said painfully, "You dare to kill me? The Ti sect will not let go." Putong. Before he could finish his sentence, Chen Tianluo instantly stopped breathing, without the slightest bit of life. At the moment of his death, he stared with horrified eyes, his heart filled with endless regret, not believing that Qin Chen would really dare to kill him. Hiss! A series of gasps of cold air rang out in the arena. Everyone stared blankly at Qin Chen, all stunned. Those eyes were simply like those of a madman. You actually killed Vice Sect Master Chen. The remaining elder and 2 disciples of the Ti sect turned pale, their eyes filled with shock and anger, but more of it was fear. Since you are unwilling to reconcile, then you are this young master's enemy. As an enemy, could it be that this young master can let you go back alive and deal with this young master again? Qin Chen smiled coldly, looked at the few people, and a cold light bloomed in his eyes. Not only will this Chen Tianluo die, but all of you will also die. Whoosh! In the void, sword lights suddenly flickered, interweaving into a sword net, surrounding the few people. No! Don't kill me! The Ti sect will not let you go, don't kill me! The elder and the 2 disciples shouted in horror, but they were simply unable to resist. They could only watch helplessly as the sky full of sword light completely swallowed them, and their entire bodies turned into a sky full of bloody rain, scattering all over the ground. An astonishing sound of gasping for air suddenly rang out in the arena. All the people of Xuanzu were all dumbfounded, staring blankly at Qin Chen. This kid is crazy. He actually killed the Ti sect's vice sect master Chen Tianluo and his disciples. Oh my god, this is too crazy. Isn't this kid afraid of the Ti sect coming to take revenge? All the people of Xuanzu couldn't understand where Qin Chen got the courage to kill Chen Tianluo and the others. Yes, indeed. Under the power of the ancient southern capital, Qin Chen had enough ability to kill them, but after killing them, he would face the Ti sect's anger. Wasn't Qin Chen afraid of death? The scene before them completely shattered the imagination in their hearts. After killing Chen Tianluo and the others, Qin Chen's gaze fell on the many martial artists of Qianying Valley and Shanhai sect again. What do you want to do? Zhou Luo of Qianying Valley looked at Qin Chen in horror. Don't make a mistake. If you kill me, you won't live either. His expression was shocked and angry, and he spoke repeatedly, trying to dispel Qin Chen's killing intent. But what responded to him was Qin Chen's extremely fast sword. No! Zhou Luo roared in despair, wanting to struggle, but an invisible force bound him, making him unable to move no matter what. He could only watch helplessly as the rusty sword in Qin Chen's hand slashed across his throat. Gurgle! Zhou Luo covered his neck, blood spurting from between his fingers, his eyes filled with despair, and he fell to the ground, without a sound. Elder Zhou Luo is dead. Run! Run! The remaining disciples of Sky Eagle Valley turned pale with fright and turned to flee. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. But 3 black streamers suddenly flashed from the void, puff puff puff, piercing through the few people, weaving a bloody scene. Thump. In an instant, all the disciples of Sky Eagle Valley who participated in the ancient southern capital competition had fallen, and none survived. The crowd on the side was already scared silly. Qin Chen not only killed the disciples of the Ti sect, but also killed all the disciples of Sky Eagle Valley. Crazy. This kid is completely crazy. At this moment, the many forces that had stood up to reprimand Qin Chen were all like cold water being poured on them, their bodies were cold, and they were covered in cold sweat. They then reacted. In this ancient southern capital, Qin Chen, who could control some of the remaining power of the ancient southern capital, could easily control their fate. Before, they dared to stand up only because they believed that Qin Chen would not attack. But when Qin Chen really attacked, they were all panicked, and their hearts were filled with fear. Yes, if Qin Chen dared to kill them, he himself would definitely not survive the wrath of the major forces in the future, but this matter had nothing to do with them. Qin Chen, let's talk it over. The previous matter was just a misunderstanding, I swear. Our Shanhai sect absolutely has no intention of settling accounts with you. Before, it was just some misunderstandings. The elder of the Shanhai sect panicked, and before Qin Chen could attack, he hurriedly begged for mercy. Misunderstanding. Qin Chen grinned, revealing his white teeth, but in the other party's eyes, it was like the smile of the Grim Reaper. The many disciples of the Shanhai sect were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat, their legs trembled, and they were almost kneeling down. The Shanhei sect elder said in horror, "Yes, yes, yes, it's a misunderstanding. Don't worry, our Shanhei sect has no intention towards you. We'll leave immediately, we'll leave immediately." After speaking, the leading elder of the Shanhei sect led his disciples away. "Want to leave now? Why didn't you do it earlier?" An icy sneer sounded. Qin Chen raised his right hand, and with a whoosh whoosh whoosh, 3 streamers pierced through the void and shot straight at the few people. "You." The Shanhei sect elder was shocked and angry, his eyes widened, and before he could say a word, his throat was pierced by a stream of light, and blood splashed out several feet away. Puff puff puff. In just a few breaths, all the Shanhei sect disciples had fallen, and none survived. At this point, except for the Lixian sect, all the members of the forces who had previously stood up against Qin Chen had fallen, and none survived. On the ground, corpses were piled up, blood flowed horizontally, and the strong bloody smell rushed straight into everyone's nostrils, causing everyone's faces to turn pale, and their eyes showed horror. Ruthless. Too ruthless. Without saying a word, he killed nearly 20 experts from the 3 major forces in Xuanzhou who were at odds with him. This method was simply too ruthless. Everyone thought to themselves that if they were in his shoes, they would not dare to do such a thing. He is happy to kill now, but what he will face next is the monstrous anger and pursuit of the 3 major forces in Xuanzhou. Many Xuanzhou forces also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they did not step forward just now, otherwise, their fate would probably be the same as that of the Tiyi sect and other forces. After killing the people from the Tiyi sect and other forces, Qin Chen finally set his sights on the Lixian sect and others. "Qin Chen, what do you want to do? Could it be that you want to kill us too? HMPH, have you ever thought about what the consequences will be for you now that you are so powerful? Have you considered it?" Ji Yixuan's eyes were gloomy, he snorted coldly and said, at this time, he was still able to remain calm, and he was not as panicked as the Shanhei sect elder and others, his eyes were extremely calm. "You say what I want to do." Qin Chen held the mysterious rusty sword, and his footsteps were like the Grim Reaper, slowly moving forward, sneering in his heart. These people from the Lixian sect are really arrogant, even at this time, they still don't have a trace of nervousness. I advise you not to continue to make mistakes. Ji Yixuan was high above, his eyes coldly staring at Qin Chen. You killed Chen Tianluo and the others, which is already a capital crime. In the near future, you will face the pursuit of many experts from the Tiyi sect, Sky Eagle Valley, and Shanhei sect. However, it doesn't matter. These 3 forces can only be considered mid-level in my Xuanzhou. The sect master of the Tiyi sect is only a late-stage 5th-order martial sect cultivator, which is nothing at all. But if you attack my Lixian sect, I advise you to think carefully. Ji Yixuan's tone was arrogant, his expression was indifferent, and in his words, he did not take the 3 major forces such as the Tiyi sect seriously at all. He also has the capital to be arrogant. As the top 3 forces in Xuanzhou, the Lixian sect is much stronger than the Tiyi sect and the others. They are not on the same level at all. Qin Chen, what Ji Yixuan said is not wrong. I advise you to think carefully. The sect master of the Lixian sect is a 6th-order martial venerable level expert. At this moment, a chuckle came, and it was Dai Tianyi of Dixon City, who was smiling and reminding him. The people of the 5 countries on the field were all shocked, and their hearts were shaken, and their eyes fluctuated. 6th-order martial venerable. No wonder this Lixian sect was so arrogant before. In the land of the 5 countries, there is not even a 5th-order martial sect, and a half-step martial sect is already considered the strongest. I didn't expect that the Lixian sect of Xuanzhou actually has a 6th-order martial venerable level expert. Such a character can easily kill any late-stage 5th-order martial sect with a wave of his hand. No wonder many Xuanzhou forces, no matter how arrogant they are, dare not be arrogant in front of these 3 major forces. In fact, forces like the Tiyi sect have a high-level mentality when facing the land of the 5 countries, and they feel that they can destroy them at will. However, when facing the Lixian sect, their mentality is exactly the opposite. With the terrifying power of the 3 major forces, they can also easily destroy them without any effort. This is also the reason why Ji Yixuan is so arrogant. Qin Chen has offended the Ti sect. With his cultivation and strength, he may still have a chance to escape, but if he offends the Lixian sect, no one in the sky or on earth can stop him, and he will undoubtedly die. Ji Yixuan glanced at Dai Tianyi, his eyes flashed, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at Qin Chen and said, Qin Chen, although you have grievances with my Lixian sect now, it has not reached the point of irreconcilable conflict. As long as you abolish your cultivation and kneel down to apologize, you may still have a chance to survive. But if you dare to attack me and others, then you will undoubtedly die, and no one in this land of the 5 countries will be able to save you. Qin Chen's eyes turned cold. This Ji Yixuan is too arrogant. At this time, he still dares to threaten himself. Does he really think that he doesn't dare to kill him? 6th Order Marshal Venerable, is that so amazing? Not even worthy of carrying shoes for this young master. I don't know where the sense of superiority comes from. Qin Chen snorted coldly and sneered. Ji Yixuan's eyes turned cold, but he didn't say anything more, just coldly said, I advise you to think twice before acting, and don't ruin your life on a whim.